uh, assuming that we don't have a surge and everybody goes and gets vaccinated. Let's call the meeting to order and let's take the roll.
City Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Doris.
Present.
Molly.
Present.
Mann.
Present.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ.
Present.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. The invocation tonight is by Pastor Jacob Johnson from the Growing Valley Baptist Church. Welcome, Jacob.
Thank you. Let us pray. God, we thank you today for our gathering, and we thank you especially for you. We thank you for your lordship and trusting us to be servant leaders here in the city of Lancaster. We're grateful for this city. And God, we thank you for the servant leaders who serve on city council and the various staffers of our city and how they work together to move forward the vision of our city to bring vitality and a great future for all people. We pray that as they seek direction, that you will give them discernment tonight. And we thank you for every person, and we certainly appreciate you for just being God. We thank you now. In the name of Jesus, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, Jacob. Okay. Any agenda items to be removed? City Manager?
I don't believe so, Mr. Mayor.
No, sir.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we'll move new business item 1 to this part of the agenda. We will hear the staff report from Jason Cottle.
Yes, sir. Attached is a resolution for a no confidence vote for the district attorney, Mr. Gascon, and I believe there is somebody here from the district attorney's office representing the message. I don't know if I see him on or not.
Is that John Tommy?
Yes, I am here.
There he is.
Let me see if my...
Mr. Mayor, can we do the announcement requesting public comment and then hear the comment from the speaker?
I'm sorry, say that again.
Can we ask for public comment so that we can get folks' hands raised and then hear from Mr. Hatami?
Okay, well, let's have public comment. And the first public commentator will be John Hatami.
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item NB1, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press star 9 at this time.
Okay, John, you're on.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank and good evening to Mayor Rex Paris. I'd also like to thank the Lancaster City Council for giving me an opportunity to speak. I'd like to thank you for giving me an opportunity to talk about the policies and directives of the Los Angeles County District Attorney George Gascon and how they do affect the children, families, and community members of the city of Lancaster. Those policies and directives that were implemented the day that George Gascon took office negatively affect and they do harm the children, families, and community members of the city of Lancaster. I think most of you know that I don't live in Lancaster. However, I do consider Lancaster my home. For over 10 years, I worked in the Antelope Valley as a prosecutor. I worked both in adult court and I worked in juvenile court. And I handled thousands of domestic violence cases, child abuse cases, both physical and sexual, child murders, elder abuse cases, hate crimes cases, all throughout the Antelope Valley. I've given my heart to the community, both in Lancaster and in Palmdale. I have close friends who live in Lancaster. And my wife, she's a deputy sheriff, and for a time she worked in the Palmdale Sheriff's Station as a detective. And I continue to fight for abused children in the Antelope Valley. I dedicate my time to schools in the Antelope Valley. I also dedicate my time to the community, and I continue to handle child abuse cases involving murdered children, both in Lancaster and in Palmdale. I do believe for all of you, the safety of children and families is important. And I believe for everybody in Los Angeles County, it's important. We're all interconnected. We're all part of one community. We are all Angelenos. And public safety, I do believe, is important to all of us. We all want to live in a community that is safe for children and families. I'd just like to make clear that I'm talking to you as a father of 2 children, a husband of a Los Angeles County deputy sheriff, and a child abuse prosecutor. I'm also talking to you as someone who's raising my 2 young children in Los Angeles. But I want to make it clear, and it should be obvious, that I don't officially represent the official positions of my office. The policies and directives implemented by George Gascon adversely affect the public safety in Lancaster. They don't help or support the residents of the Antelope Valley. Basically, these policies provide comfort and support to criminals and wrongdoers. And I want to make it very clear to all of you that the majority of my past cases, especially the case of Gabriel Fernandez, it would have ended much differently under the policies and directives of George Gascon. Justice would not have been served for many abused and murdered children under these current policies and directives. George Gascon has implemented 0 bail for all misdemeanors and many violent felonies, including child abuse and domestic violence. Many of these crimes are repeat offenders. This policy is a direct violation of the will of the people. Millions of Angelenos voted against 0 bail in the fall of 2020. The DA has even disallowed the out on bail enhancement. That means a person can commit domestic violence, child abuse, theft crimes, vandalism, battery, second and third time DUI, all sorts of crimes. They can get arrested and then get released within 48 hours on 0 bail. That person can then reoffend, and we are not permitted to file the out on bail enhancement. There is absolutely no punishment or deterrent to stop a criminal from continuously reoffending. The DA has also disallowed the filing of misdemeanor criminal threats, trespass, disturbing the peace, loitering to commit prostitution, drinking in public, and resisting arrest. What that means is individuals who go to the mall or the supermarket or restaurants or a daycare center or a school or just about anywhere and cause problems and commit trespassing and commit loitering and commit issues that really cause problems for business owners or for patrons, nothing's really going to happen to them. And if they call the police and the police show up and they resist arrest, still nothing is going to happen to them. So those policies will lead to a diminished quality of life in the city of Lancaster. And the lack of punishment or deterrence, and most of us who are parents know this, it could eventually lead to those individuals committing more serious crimes. Sometimes when individuals commit small theft crimes, and they just don't get punished for it, then it could escalate into more serious crimes, maybe somebody breaking into somebody's home. And that could be dangerous not only for the person who's breaking into somebody's home, but also for the person who owns the home, especially if somebody owns a firearm. The policies will also destroy the morale of deputies. Deputies who patrol our neighborhood, if they continuously arrest individuals and those individuals are released within 48 hours, it does cause a morale problem within our police department. Many of these misdemeanor directives also adversely affect the prosecution of sex trafficking cases. It emboldens pimps and sex traffickers to abuse young people and the most vulnerable in our communities. George Gascon has also permanently disallowed the filing of special circumstances in any new case. And what does that mean by special circumstances? So if you commit a murder and there's a hate crime, so you commit a murder based upon hate, we won't charge a special circumstance. If you commit a murder and it's intentional murder by torture against a child, we won't charge a special circumstance. And if you commit a murder and you kill a police officer, we won't charge a special circumstance. And I know everybody in the community knew or has known about Sergeant Steve Owen. who was killed on October 5th, 2016. He was one of the finest deputies I worked with, and he was my friend. And I met him in 2007. I was a young DA. I didn't know that much. And I do remember the first case I had with Steve. You know, it was a small preliminary hearing. It was a felon in possession of a firearm and possession of sales of methamphetamine. But, you know, I've done thousands of prelims, but I'll always remember that case just because Steve really, I was impressed by how much he cared about the case, how prepared he was. He was like a second DA. He was just a great guy and a great man. And I believe he really made me a better prosecutor. Throughout the years I worked with Steve, both in adult court and juvenile court, a lot of juvenile court cases. And I can tell you that he really cared about the kids. He really cared about the children in Lancaster. And I can tell all of you, and I want you all to know that I do believe the majority of juveniles can be rehabilitated. That's important. However, some juveniles who are killing individuals, who are raping or murdering individuals, that really isn't juvenile behavior. That's adult behavior. But Steve really knew that. He just was a great deputy. He was always honest. He was always truthful. And I believe he'll be greatly missed by everybody, by all of you, by the community. And I consider myself lucky to have known him. When a police officer or deputy does lose his or her life protecting us, and we do not fight for that officer or deputy and their family and seek justice to the fullest extent of the law, and what does that really say about the person leading the district attorney's office? And so I do believe that's all you really need to know in making your decision. But I'm going to talk to you about some more. If another deputy in Lancaster is killed, we will not seek the special circumstance under George Gascon's policies. And that means that person could be paroled at some point. Going forward, George Gascon won't seek life without the possibility of parole in any case. So in any case, any new case, no matter what the circumstances, no matter what the facts are, even if the person is a serial killer or goes into a school and kills children, George Gascon is also permanently disallowed the transfer of juveniles to adult court in any case. That means in Lancaster, if you have a 17-and-a-half-year-old juvenile and he's involved in a gang and he ends up trying to shoot at a gang member and misses and shoots 2 children, that person will be released at 25 years old because we won't transfer that 17-and-a-half-year-old to adult court. That is really dangerous for the community. There's no consideration for public safety, victims' rights, personal accountability, or punishment. I want to let Lancaster know that there was a hardcore gang deputy DA assigned to the Antelope Valley branch. Based upon George Gascon's directives and the changing of the hardcore gang unit, that DA is no longer in Antelope Valley. There is no longer a hardcore gang DA in the Antelope Valley branch. And so what does that say for what George Gascon thinks about Lancaster and thinks about Palmdale? I'm not even sure he approached you, Mr. Mayor, or the council members and said that's what he was doing and just talked to you about it and said, hey, you know, we're going to take away this hardcore gang DA. What do you think about that? I mean, leaders, and you know this, Mr. Mayor, leaders should really sit down with everybody and tell them what their vision is, what they want to get accomplished, and then find out ways to get those things accomplished and come to some sort of middle ground. Not a person who's not a good leader just imposes blanket policies and refuses to meet with anybody. I still haven't met with the DA. He hasn't met with me. He hasn't sat down and talked to me about any of my cases. He doesn't care about the facts of any of my cases. I would even think defendants would want somebody to sit down and go over those facts and make sure they're clear and they know the case. Because there are some cases where defendants have mitigation, and we need to know about that, and we need to find out about that. So every case deserves individual looking at the facts and the evidence and going over the law. George Gascon has implemented these blanket policies and they apply to all cases, failing to take into consideration the facts and circumstances of the case, of the investigative agency, of surviving families, of the surviving victims, or the community. He's decided not to follow the law and has replaced the law with his own political opinions and beliefs. This is important because people need to realize that DA shouldn't be political. The reason they shouldn't be political is, let's say that you're a Democrat and then you have to prosecute somebody, a politician who's a Democrat. You shouldn't consider politics because a DA should just do the right thing. They shouldn't base their decisions on politics. A DA should be nonpartisan. Justice shouldn't be one size fits all, and it requires hard work. It should be fair and equitable for all Angelenos. Justice requires a careful consideration of all the facts, the evidence, and the law in each individual case, taking into consideration public safety, personal accountability, punishment, rehabilitation, and victim advocacy. I want to also let you, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council know that I do think some progressive policies are important. I think when it comes to addiction issues, those are things that we really need to look at, because people who are addicted to drugs, prison or jail doesn't help them. And we do have a right to help those members in our community. Same with mental health issues, and same with veterans issues, especially veterans who have post-traumatic stress. These are important issues, but these are issues that the DA should sit down and talk with the City Council, talk with you, Mr. Mayor, and come out with some solutions that we can help one another. But that doesn't mean we release murderers, rapists, bad and violent people into our community, or fail to prosecute cases that affect the health and well-being and public safety of our community. I think the residents of Lancaster and the entire Los Angeles County need to take a stand, become one voice to support victims, surviving family members, children, and the most vulnerable. And I want to leave you with this. Victims and victims' families, they're suffering. They don't think anybody's there to support them. Our whole office has been turned upside down. They're devastated at many of their cases were going one direction and now they're going a totally different direction. They don't know where to turn. And some of these victims are in your community, Mr. Mayor, and they're distraught and they're really having a difficult time. And I do believe that, and I hope that you, Mr. Mayor, and the City Council take a stand regarding these directives. And I want to make it clear that I'm not talking about George Gascon as a person. I don't know him, and it's irrelevant what I think of him as a person, but it's his directives that I think affect the citizens and the community. And I do ask that the City Council take a stand. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, John. Do we have any other speakers?
Caller with the last four digits, 1331. Please press *6 and state your name.
I'm sorry. I'm not sure if I'm.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to speak on a different topic. I pressed *9, I guess, prematurely. I didn't know, but I'm trying to speak on the dispensaries in Lancaster.
Not a problem. We will request your comments at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Caller with the last four digits, 0616. Please press *6 and state your name.
Greetings, Christian. My name is Christian Green. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Awesome. My name is Christian Green. I live and work in the city of Lancaster, and specifically on today, just strongly urging you all, to the mayor and to the city council and to those that are listening, to really vote against the no confidence resolution. I believe that our DA was elected in a free and fair election. Over 2 million voters did choose him to fight for racial injustice. So as a professor that teaches African American studies and intro to criminology, we have to think about, what constitutes a criminal, who are labeled criminals. And this comes from a more of a historical lens. And this allows us to really become more educated as we learn about this moving forward. And for myself and for others, I think that Gascon is doing a pretty good job. And like Jonathan had said earlier, and he said a lot of different things, that there is a lot to unpack there. But I will say that a meeting with Gascon would be pretty good so that you guys can talk about some stuff about reform. But I really want us to think about just community-driven reforms. I want us to think about how even in the 1980s and the 1990s, the carceral policies and how there was an increased rates of a reoffense, also known as recidivism, and created more victims of crime. Even under the prior tough on crime DA, Los Angeles sent more people to state prison per capita than 56 of California's 58 counties, and yet violent crime increased 25%. So victims of violent crime in our LA County still overwhelmingly support our criminal justice reforms that emphasize rehabilitation and crime prevention rather than incarceration. I think we're living in a better time frame to where we can be more progressive in our thoughts. Like you said earlier, Jonathan, it's not about the different political views, but it's just thinking about humanity, right? And who is on the spectrum of becoming rehabilitated and being shown more compassion. So again, I would love for you guys to vote against the no confidence resolution, and thank you for your time. Have a good day.
Caller with the last 4 digits, 8608, please press *6 and state your name.
Hello, my name is Arthur Calloway. I wanted to just ask that, I wanted to state that I've actually met George Gascon as a community member, and he is doing everything that during that election, during that candidate forum in February, he's doing everything that he said he was going to do and that I voted for. I wanted to just ask, and this can be answered off after I get off the phone, but was this directive or resolution passed to the Social Justice Committee that was instated, or Social Equity Committee that was instated during all of the marches where people were asking for police reform and all of the things that George is actually doing, that it was created during that time to make sure that we as a community were protected from rash decisions of saying that maybe this progressive type of line of new rules might actually help us as a community. I just wanted to know if at all the Social Equity Committee was asked whether or not they believed in this resolution. Thank you.
Cortez Chandler, please press *6.
You hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I was listening to what Jonathan had to say. I was once formerly incarcerated. I came home and I'm a leader of a nonprofit that helped people come out of the system and be reinstated back into society as taxpayers. And a lot of these votes that you guys are trying to do, I look at as being negative because Gaston hasn't had the chance to do his job. And if this is political, I think it's more Republicans that want him out of the office than anybody else. So you guys, please consider what you guys are doing. Reimagine what the police and the community needs, because, we always talk about Black Lives Matter, but we have Black friends, but we don't take care of them. So please understand that and try to help the community and build something better than what you guys already built. Thank you.
There are no other speakers.
Thank you. Does the council have any questions of John?
John, Councilman Darrell Doris, I've been torn on this. I haven't spoken with any of my council members about this. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've had specifically talked to parents that have dealt with gangs and shootings. One in particular wasn't necessarily a gang shooting, but Miss Charlotte Briggs, which was a former member of my father's church. Her son was killed in 2016 in the Antelope Valley from a bow and arrow. And just recently, his case was put back up to be overturned, something with the sentences because of what the new DA just did. At the same time, from the city that I grew up in, Inglewood, California, we suffered with a lot of gangs for whatever reason in the 90s, 80s. And a lot of those mothers are upset because some of those charges are being overturned. At the same time, I do agree with our current justice system has not been working fairly. If you look at statistical data, you'll see that children of color are tried as adults 3-1 over any other race for whatever reason. And it's almost as if those children, which we have already stated, are not psychologically developed as well due to whatever reasons, what they're seeing, what they're around, their environment that they're in. It's almost as if their life is taken from them at such a young age for a mistake. I'm curious to know, is there a middle ground on this? Because we have to admit, and let's be fair about this, the 3 strikes law, I heard somebody say Republican came from a Democratic president. So I want to make sure that is this really political party lines, or is this something that you really feel is just totally detrimental? Because I have African Americans on both sides of the fence right here, and mostly the African American mothers that have suffered from gang violence or violent deaths that are hearing now that the sentences are drastically lower. They're being overturned. They're going back into court. I got personal calls from that, and I think Ms. Briggs might be watching right now. She told me she would be. So I'm curious about this. Is this really a lot of the lawyers really saying that this is detrimental? Is this a party line thing? Is this extreme right versus extreme left right now?
I think I agree with you. I think you and I have pretty much the same thought process on this. And I think most of the deputy DAs do too. I think we're asking for a middle ground. When you make blanket policies, there's no middle ground. The majority of victims, especially of violent crimes, are people of color. And so if nobody feels like they're getting justice and the system's not working for anybody, we have a problem. And so I agree with you, even with juveniles. I worked in the juvenile court system. Gascon's never tried one case, never worked in any of the systems. I think the majority, first, I loved working in juvenile court. I thought that was the only place really where I was actually making a difference. I think by the time they get older and they're committing heinous crimes, there's really not much I can do with the exception of protecting the public. So I think when it comes to juveniles, I think the majority of juveniles, we should work on rehabilitation. But that doesn't mean we create blanket policies. So, there are exceptions where somebody's 17 and a half and kills a couple people or rapes somebody. That's adult behavior. And we have to protect the public. And so there are numerous people that have come to me and they're suffering because their children or their loved ones have been killed and we're not seeking justice. I do not believe this is based upon a party line or Republican versus Democrat or conservative versus liberal or conservative versus progressive. I believe everybody wants public safety. Democrats, Republicans, independents, everybody wants public safety. When I talk about child abuse happens in red states, child abuse happens in blue states, child abuse happens all along party lines. My job is to fight for children. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican family or a Democratic family. So I think when it comes to public safety, I do believe everybody in my office believes that we have a problem right now. We have a DA who has implemented blanket policies that affect every case, I would think everybody would want all of their cases viewed independently. And I would think that's just respectful to do that. I would think that we should get the whole community. He tries to say that he's involved the community. He actually doesn't. He creates all these policies on his own. He doesn't have, not only does he lack diversity in the people that are around him, he lacks diversity of thought. Diversity of thought is important. You should have people around you that think differently. It makes everybody better. He also lacks transparency. He doesn't tell anybody what he's doing, especially when it comes to the reorganization of the office and where people are going or not going. So, no one, he's not the king. And just because people voted for him doesn't mean he gets to do whatever he wants and not follow the law. And so I'm very middle of the road. I do believe that we need to have reforms. I 100% believe that. However, reforms have to go according to the law, and they have to take into consideration victims, families, and public safety. And he's not doing that. One of his policies is he wants to look at releasing individuals who have served 15 or more years in state prison. Well, I think if we start releasing so many people who could hurt individuals without really taking into consideration a program to reform them, a program to rehabilitate them, not only that, a program to transition them. I was in the Army. You have to have programs that transition you from the Army or being incarcerated back into civilian life. You have to know, where do you get public transportation? Where can you get housing? Where can you get food? Where can you get a job? Just releasing individuals into the community without doing all those things, that's dangerous. And so he wants to release everybody without even doing that. And I think that really needs to be looked at. So I agree with everything you said. I think you and I have the same viewpoint. I am very middle of the road, but he's implemented blanket policies that affect every single case. If you commit mass murder, if you intentionally murder and torture a child, those cases, we should be able to, according to the law, seek the ultimate punishment in those cases if there's 100% evidence, if it's according to the law. And so it's a case-by-case basis, and he just doesn't do that. And I do think a lot of individuals and communities are suffering, and people don't feel like they have confidence in the DA's office. Especially, in individuals in areas where they don't trust the DA's office to begin with. And so I do think it's important for Lancaster to take a stand, but I'm also empathetic to the callers. I am. I do think that people can be rehabilitated, and I do hope they are rehabilitated. I think we all do. I think everybody wants people to come out and be productive citizens in our society. Of course, who wouldn't want that? But releasing dangerous people and failing to protect the public is not the right way to go about it.
Jonathan, last question. I did read that he had started a first victim advisory board. What have you heard about that?
And I think it's a great question too. And the problem is he just does things without even talking to anybody about it. And he creates this victim advisory board, which, listen, I respect the board because I know everybody on that. They are victims and they are survivors, but he didn't include the rest of the community. He didn't tell us how he was doing it. We have a large unit of victim advocates. He didn't even include them in that discussion. We have a head deputy of that unit. He just came out and created this advisory board without including anybody else in the community, without talking to the DAs, without talking to the victim advocates. That's what I mean. He's like the king. He just does all these things, doesn't include others with other diverse viewpoints, doesn't really tell us what he's doing. He doesn't even tell us what exactly is their goal. What's their mission? What are they supposed to do? Who do they advise? Do they have reports? Do they come out with reports? How do they help others? Are they representative of all the communities in LA County? Because we have a lot of communities with a lot of different cultures and different viewpoints. And that's what I mean. There's a complete lack of transparency about who he hires, how he organizes the office. And I've just never seen that. People know I work for you. I work for the public. My job is to be transparent, especially when it comes to criminal law. And if we're doing something wrong, the public needs to know about it because then they can fix it. But right now, we just don't have that. So all I know is he created a victim advisory board. I think it's 9 members of the community. They are victims, and I do respect them and survivors. But that's really all I know about it. And so, because there's just no transparency about what's going on in my office.
Anyone else?
Jacob Johnson, Pastor Johnson?
No, wait a minute. No, you misunderstood. We've already had public comment. Since you called on Jacob, we can go ahead and let Jacob speak. But what I meant was, did the council have anything else to say?
So when Jacob gets done, Rex, I'd like to speak.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for allowing me to speak. Mr. Atami, I thank you for sharing with us. I serve as president of the local branch of the NAACP, and as well as pastor, predominantly African-American church. And I will say that your tone and tenor scare me, mainly because I don't hear solutions. One of the things I think we all would agree on is that change is very difficult. All of us change. I'm sure none of us have on the same clothes we had on yesterday. But it's the process of change. And typically, having been where I am for 10 years, for 2 years, people cried about change. They complained about change because it was uncomfortable. And being that he was just elected, our DA was just elected in November, this has not been an easy thing. So one of my major concerns is that I often hear people speak about when a deputy is killed, and basically going for justice to the fullest extent. But when the tables are turned, it's different. That when a civilian is killed by a deputy wrongfully, that the same rhetoric that you're using is not used. And so when we hear about being compassionate, it sounds like, you're basically saying, he doesn't tell us, he doesn't tell us, but you are aware of what he's done. And it may just be a time of giving him an opportunity to maybe explain some of those things, because change is needed. And if you're agreeing that change is needed, what would help settle me would be perhaps bringing more policies or some changes, recommendations that you would do, as opposed to, complaining about someone who's in a chair that it seems like you actually might want to be in, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, my tone and tenor, I think, is pretty calm. If it scares you, I'm sorry. I'm just talking factually. My job is a prosecutor. And so my job is, and Lisa, my job is to fight for children. When it comes to that, I need to follow the law and the facts and the evidence. I'm not a politician. I don't set policy. I don't think that Los Angeles should be an experiment where we should allow someone the opportunity to experiment on the community and decide what he thinks should and shouldn't happen and see how it goes. And if somebody does hurt somebody, then we should say, we gave him a chance and I guess he made a mistake. I'm just not willing to do that. I'm not complaining. I'm doing my job, and I'm fighting for individuals who are victims and survivors. And so, and I'm not going to stop doing that. I'm informing, and I'm giving people the facts. I don't believe that's complaining. When it comes to following the law, everybody should be held under the same standard of the law, including police officers. And if you didn't know, in the Gabriel Fernandez case, I filed a pitches motion. There may be one other deputy DA in the whole office who filed a pitches motion. And if anybody's familiar with criminal law, most prosecutors don't do that, because I'm not one of the prosecutors or a person who believes that somebody's above the law. If somebody I think is hiding something or not doing the right thing, I'm going to call them out on it. So I'm not complaining. I don't want anybody's job. I'm not being political. And so I don't see, and I don't set policy. I'm not a politician. I'm a prosecutor. And my job is to follow the law and to protect the public and to make sure that the families, in my cases, receive justice, and to make sure that I'm honest and have integrity. If you want to ask me personally about solutions, I can give you a lot of solutions personally to help communities, especially when it comes to children. I think the majority of our money in taxes should go to children. I think our schools should be better. I think if we really want to change Los Angeles, we need to deal with children. I'm going around helping individuals with skate parks. That's a personal thing, dealing with trying to get children into sports and things so they can get out of criminal conduct. I go talk to schools and try to help children in that way. I dedicate a lot of my time to children, but that's individual. That's not as a prosecutor. That's just me, because I care about my community and I care about the children in my community. So I can sit with you for hours and talk to you about solutions. I got a lot of them, and they have to do with children. But when adults are murdering people, there's not much else we can do except for protect the public. And maybe my tenor scares you because I deal with murdered children. And the fact of the matter is people do murder children, and my job is to fight for justice for them. But I am very empathetic, and I do hold everybody to the same standard, including police officers. Police officers actually should be held to a higher standard because they have more power than others, and all they have is their integrity, and that's important. And I believe in my career I've done that.
Thank you, John. Anyone else? Any council members?
I do. To me, this is not, I agree with Jonathan 100%. This is not racial. This is not political. This is about, at least for me, going to the hospital, seeing one of our police officers shot 5 times, shot in the head, executed, when he was going there to protect us. So he was going there to protect us, and he gets a plea bargain for that. Tanya Owens is backing this. She's supporting the initiative. We need to protect everybody, and that's part of it. We have to protect our police officers if they're going to protect us. So to me, it's not political. It's not a Republican. It's not racial. It is, let's start protecting everybody. And part of that is you don't get to execute our officers.
Thank you.
Mayor, if I may say or speak, Jonathan, I want to thank you for taking the time to give us your background and share your points of view. I think we have some similarities. I have a rough time when somebody gets elected and then they decide they are king or they're above the law.
Hey, I resent that.
I just, I think the correct way to go about doing it is let's change the law if the law's not right. And I truly believe that's the best way. And being an advocate historically, whether it was being on the Children's Center board over a number of years, my background usually speaks for itself. One thing for sure, somebody's got to look out for the kids. And I appreciate your passion. So thanks.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the council? Going once, going twice, gone. Thank you. The concern I have with this particular DA, and he's not the first that this has occurred with, but he is the most current, is there seems to be some confusion about what the roles are. The role of a district attorney, and it's essential that they maintain that role because we have an adversary system. It is their job to take the laws and enforce them uniformly. They don't get to decide which laws they like and which laws they don't. They don't get to decide who they should enforce them against and who they shouldn't enforce them against. When you allow a situation like that to develop, that's exactly what you're going to get. You're going to get a DA who prosecutes personalities instead of behavior. That is inevitable. It will follow as sure as the sun comes up tomorrow. You see it with judges. Judges oftentimes will put that robe on and all of a sudden think they get to not interpret the law, but decide the law and create the law and decide which cases have. I mean, I've seen it more times than I wish I had, where they decide who they want to win, and they'll roll their eyes when the jury's looking at appropriate times. They skew the rulings. And what you end up with when you have people who get confused about what their role is you don't have justice. And pretty soon you don't even have the illusion of justice. And trust me, that is all we have now is the illusion of justice. And it's been that way for a number of years. This is beginning to concern me a great deal. All of the progress we have made in fighting back against crime and suppressing criminal behavior is evaporating before our very eyes. Since the first of the year, there have been 200 misdemeanor filings that didn't get filed, that the sheriff's department arrested somebody, had the evidence to convict somebody, and for whatever reason, it just didn't get filed. Now, it is the role of the district attorney to look at the case and decide, is there sufficient evidence to prosecute it? It is not their role to look at the case and decide if it's something they want to prosecute. That is not their role. Their role is to prosecute everything that is brought before them. Now, they certainly have discretion in how they do it. I mean, I'm the first one to say that I think sentences have been far too severe at times in the last 20 years. And it kind of goes like this. But it is crazy to me, the length of the sentences we found ourselves in. It's also crazy to me that when people have gotten out of jail, gotten out of prison, have lived productive lives for 10 years, not committed any crime whatsoever, still can't get a job because they're convicted felons. I mean, I see a lot of room for reform, but that reform has to come from the right places. It does not come from the district attorney's office. If we do not have a district attorney that we can rely on to make certain people are held accountable, our crime rate just starts climbing. And it is starting to climb. And there are crimes that he doesn't prosecute. You know, what's happening in regards to well, we'll be talking about it later in the meeting, is really beginning to frighten us. It is. We cannot have a law-abiding city. We cannot have a law-abiding city if we don't have a DA willing to enforce the law. Now, I really don't care what the policy of the DA's office is in regards to length of sentencing. I don't think that's my business. I think it is the DA's job to decide what the length of sentence should be within the confines of the crime committed. Once the legislature says this is the range, it's for the DA to make recommendations in that regard. It is not the DA's job to say, I'm not going to prosecute it because I disagree with it. And that is what we have. Somebody asked a question about, has this gone through Social Equity Commission? There seems to be some confusion as to what the role of commissions in this city. It is the role of the commissions to bring ideas to us. It is not the role of the commissions to approve what we do. And I want to make that very clear if anybody's under the illusion that we're seeking consent from any commission. It is not our job to do that. It is not their job to ask us to do that. It is their job to come up with ideas and ways for us to improve the well-being of the city. And they're doing a very good job of that. I don't mean to criticize anything they're doing. They're putting it together. They're coming up with innovative, creative ideas. As far as this particular DA, he's making decisions that affect the very core of our city. And he has not contacted any of us. He doesn't care what we think. He doesn't care that we might have different ideas. That may be because most of us here are Republicans. That is shocking to me. Is he only talking to the Democrats, the liberal Democrats that share his views? That is not why he was elected. He was elected to protect the hardworking families in our city. And from everything I've seen, he's done nothing to find out what the hardworking families of our city need or want or are even afraid of. You know, it's a simple analysis. What is the goal? The goal is for us to be safer. That is the primary goal. It is not to be worried about the well-being of the people committing the crimes. I'm sorry, that is not our function. That is not his function. Once they get in the system, then it might be the policy and the concern of the system to rehabilitate those folks and bring them back into society. You don't rehabilitate anybody by giving them a pass. And it would be different, I think, if he had come forward and said, look, we're going to do this type of punishment for these types of crimes, and this is the policy. I would have been much more open to that. But all I'm seeing is there's not any punishment. There is not any accountability. There is nothing that is going to dissuade people from doing whatever they want to do. You know, to me, the saying that comes into mind is you don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Yeah, you gotta clean things up occasionally. You gotta change things. You gotta improve things. But let's remember what we're here for. We're here to protect the well-being of the people that live and work in Lancaster. And that's our job as a council. And I'm making the motion to vote no confidence in our current district attorney. That could change if he were to give us some indication he gives that he cares at all about what we think and what we do and how to work with us. But I have not seen that. You know, the thing with the special circumstances, I get the arguments both ways about capital punishment. I would have been the person who said we shouldn't have any capital punishment until I watched Sergeant Owen die in front of us. Then I watched them beat on his chest for over an hour and a half. When I watched the family watch him die, there are some crimes that deserve capital punishment, and that was certainly one of them. And to say that no special circumstances at all, I'm dumbfounded by that. And yes, it is different. Police officers are different. We are putting them out in harm's way day after day after day. Sergeant Owens was a police officer for 29 years. For 29 years, every single day he risked his life. And finally, time ran out because somebody decided to execute him. I mean, after he shot him, after he was totally no longer a threat to him at all, he put 3 bullets in his brain. That guy deserved the death penalty. He certainly didn't deserve a deal that took no consideration whatsoever for the extent of the crime or the impact it was going to have on the community. And we also saw it in the other sentence that the other plea bargain he gave. You know, if any of you guys ever steal $186,000 from the public and then commit perjury about it, trust me, we're going to be asking that you spend some time in prison. The fact that he was able to walk with 2 years probation, I don't see that this DA is concerned at all about accountability. And that is the job he has to have. He has to be the guy who does that. You know, it's the judge who should decide whether or not there should be compassion, whether or not there should be special consideration made because of the circumstances of the person in the crime. It is not the DA's job. and I'm going to close with this. I think that in many respects, the previous DAs have brought this upon us. They brought it upon us with policies of raising the number of crimes charged if they don't accept a plea bargain. You know, there shouldn't be a manipulation of the charges in order to get somebody to give up their right to a jury trial. They should decide what the charge is. And that's the charge whether they plea out or don't plea out. And there should be a lot of oversight on how they manipulate those charges. And the failing to do that, I think, has resulted in the public being fed up with how some things were being run. And I hope that if we get a new DA, that there is a much greater balance in how we approach criminal justice. Thank you for listening to me. But that's the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
City Council members Doris,
Hey.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes. It passes 4-0 and 1 abstention.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Atami.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, city councilmen and women. And anytime you ever need my advice or I guess friendship or if I can ever get mentorship from you, I definitely would appreciate it. Thank you so much.
John, aren't you afraid you're going to be doing arraignments pretty soon?
I know, you're right. Like here's the thing, Mr. Mayor, I think you know me and council members know me. If I get punished and something bad happens, I'm religious. I'm also, I believe in doing the right thing, and I'm going to keep doing this. And if something bad happens to me, as long as I think I'm doing the right thing, I think God wants me to do what I'm doing right now, which is fighting for children. And if for some reason that I get punished for it, I'm willing to accept that and, make the best of it wherever I go.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, thank you.
Have a great week.
You too.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
I'll second that. Ken Mann.
Okay. City Clerk?
City Council member, Agency Director, Authority members Doris,
Aye.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ,
Yes.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Yes. Passes unanimously. And now let's go to ED1, COVID-19 pandemic update. We have the doctors and the deputy mayors here. If they could come on screen.
Hi, this is Jonathan. Can you hear?
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to shorten the usual presentation where I scope down from the world, to the state, to the county, spend some time on how we did in terms of, as a group, in terms of reducing cases in Antelope Valley and Lancaster in particular, and deaths. So I'll go through it right now. This is what's happening in the world. This was I did this slides over the weekend. Basically, we're about 147 million cases throughout the world and 3.1 million deaths. If you look at the graph to the right, as you can see, there's a huge spike throughout the world. In other words, even if we're doing fine in LA County in California, in the United States, the rest of the world is struggling. There's a 17% increase in cases, 3% increase in deaths throughout the world. And the countries that are, as you've been watching the news or reading, basically India is struggling the most. As you can see, it's 345,000 cases compared to the next highest, which is the United States at 67,000. And when you look at the map, the orange lights up very strongly. The South America still has it, and Europe also has it. But India really has gotten a lot of press, and the reason is multifactorial. There's been a relaxation of infection control measures like masking, social distancing. There's also a rise in unrestricted social interactions. Large crowds have gathered indoors and outdoors for political rallies, celebrations, religions, weddings. They had an initial infection spike, but after 3 months, there's been waning of antibody immunity in the population. And then fourthly, low vaccine coverage in India. And then a fifth problem is the new variant called the B1617. It's called a double mutant because it has mutation in the strain in California and also the Brazilian South African strain. So these two mutations found in B1617 basically has enhanced the ability of the virus to infect about 20% more capacity than the average of prior cells in the laboratory. So all of these are warning to us and also the rest of the world that you may survive, you may do well in the first few surges, but if you don't keep up the infection control, you may end up like this as well. How about the United States? How are we doing? We're doing very well. Most of the country is in the light yellow and the fewer range. Michigan, as you know from the news, has been moderate, and also the Northeast United States and some of Florida. California traditionally has been number one. We are now at only 1,284 new cases, and we're ranked 14 in terms of new cases. Florida, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, again, I mentioned in the Northeast, are the ones that are really getting all the cases. But even then, they're also waning. News now has shown that hospitalizations have dropped in Michigan, in New York, et cetera. And cases have also been dropped by some 12% overall. So despite the news that Michigan's struggling, it's actually doing quite well. This is just a reminder how we were in the last surge in January. Basically, most of the country was in the purple range, and California was number one compared to now we're really down in the list, which is nice. So most of California is now in the moderate code, risk level. 87% of the counties are. And basically, we are, I think, poised to go into the minimal and really to open up completely. This slide shows LA County. We only had 307 new cases as of 2 or 3 days ago. Here, the graph shows our new reported cases are down. Our positive cases are down. Our tests, hospitalizations are also down. Deaths are also down substantially. So things are looking nicely in LA County as well. This is from the LA County website. Basically, 443 new cases as of the 23rd, 3 days ago, and total cases. New deaths only 16. Total deaths report 23,775. The mortality rate's at 216 per 100,000, and our Hispanic, Latino, and the high poverty area still carries the burden. That has not changed. A similar graph very nicely show here that daily cases have dropped to barely anything, and deaths also have dropped. That follows. This is the heat map of where the cases are. Looks like the Antelope Valley is comparable in terms of total cases to a lot of other places in LA County, and that has not changed as well. Here, this slide shows where we are compared to LA County. This is the adjusted case per 100,000. LA County is 11,868 as of the 27th. City of Lancaster, we're actually higher, 13,627, simply because we have a younger demographic. If you recall those several slides before, I used to present here that the young people under 50, people under 35 really are getting sick and spreading it to the older who are actually dying. So here, adjusted death rate, 216, we're actually doing better as a group despite the higher cases. This was going back in November. We've always had cases that are higher or very close to the adjusted cases of LA County, but our number of deaths have always been lower. And here again, this is December, similarly higher case rates, but lower deaths in Lancaster. March, again, same thing, lower death rates, despite LA County's higher death rate. So I kind of mapped this out like this, graphed it out really to show that despite the adjusted cases per 100,000, this is November, December, all the way to April, the yellow bars are LA County numbers, the blue bar are Lancaster numbers. In the beginning, we were lower or almost comparable, but we quickly surpassed the number of cases compared to LA County because of our younger demographics. But despite the higher cases, we were able to keep our deaths rate lower consistently throughout the year, throughout the pandemic. So basically, I think we did the right thing, pushing out all the mandates, the masking, and everything else we've done, and then also now pushing vaccinations. I can pause here, but I have a few slides regarding Johnson & Johnson updates, but I can pause here if the City Council wants me to pause.
I don't know about the rest of the council, but I'm good with where we're at. When this is over, we really need to assess what we did right, what we did wrong. I don't want this I don't want to lose the lessons we've learned, and I don't want to lose the opportunity to further understand what occurred and what we could have done better. The reality is our death rate should have been much higher. And the reason it should have been much higher is because of our demographics. We have a significant Latino population, and for whatever reason, that population was adversely affected the most. We also, but more importantly, we have a population with the worst comorbidities. We have the highest obesity rates, we have the highest diabetes rates, we have the highest heart disease rates, we have the highest high blood pressure rates. Our death toll should have been through the roof, and the fact it wasn't, we owe a tremendous debt of gratitude to the hospital and to the medical providers in this community. They did an unbelievable job. They did it better than anyone else in the county. I mean, if not the country. It was truly phenomenal. But it goes beyond that. It goes to the community as a whole. I mean, I've never seen the level of cooperation we've had. I've never seen so many people with one goal in mind, which was to save as many lives as possible. It was exhibited when Pastor Chappell got Samaritan's Purse to come in a matter of days on New Year's Eve, for heaven's sakes. It was exhibited with our congressional representatives and Buck McKeon getting FEMA to select Lancaster as the place to come in California. It was NASA, when we ran out of oxygen, within hours was able to produce a truck full of liquid oxygen. We now have more oxygen than we know what to do with for the next 5 years. Every place else was running out of oxygen, and within hours we had a surplus. What this community did is, I mean, they should write a book about it. But more importantly, I think we need to remember that when we come together as a community, we can do anything. We can fight the dragons of dragons, and that's what this plague was, and be successful. It's been an honor to be part of this. Thank you, Dr. Trump.
I have a question, if I can ask Dr. Trump.
Yes.
So I heard the president today state that if you have the shot and you're in with your family or outdoors or small groups, that you can now take your mask off. How do you feel about that?
That's correct. There's a lot of good data that outdoor infection is very low, less than 10%. And if you've had you and your family, your household have had the vaccine completely, both shots, or the Johnson & Johnson by itself, then the risk of infecting and spreading outdoors to others is really low. They still recommend, though, that even if you've been vaccinated and you're about to go into an event, a large group of people, not everyone in there have been vaccinated. You should still wear your mask, because now, although you are protected 90%, 95% of the time, there's a 5% to 10% chance that you still get infected and not know it, and then spread to the large group. So that's the recommendation. Small outdoors is the best. You don't need to wear your mask. That's correct.
I have one question. Do we have any number, like how many people are vaccinated already in AV?
Yeah, the county has a really good dashboard, and I don't know if we can pull it up while we're talking here, but the stats for our vaccination sites, both at the fairgrounds, one with High Desert Medical and one with Kaiser, over the last month have vaccinated 30,000 people. So when you look at the magnitude of what's happening there, it's been a large impact. There's still work to be done where we're having, we've got open appointments. So I think it's imperative that we continue to message, even though we're opening the economy, we continue to message that vaccination is key to continuing to get out of this program. And I think that's what's key to it. So, just as anecdotally, 30,000 over the last month is a great story. And, that's only 2 vaccination sites, throughout the Antelope Valley. We've got a vaccination site in Palmdale. Many of the doctor's offices are doing it, CVS, some of the bonds, things of that nature. So, we're getting the numbers where we wanted them to be, frankly, when, 3 weeks ago and 4 weeks ago, when we were screaming from the mountaintops about getting our vaccines, now we're getting them. And I think it's important to people to start taking advantage of those.
Last week I took a tour at the fairground, and High Desert just started. So that day they had a goal. I think they were 25 to 3,000 a day. So that's really good. And I was there by around noon, and they already have vaccinated 700 people. And they were accepting somebody walking in, they were taking them. So I think that was really good. So,
right. And just a note, Thursday and Friday of this week, we're going to have the Pfizer vaccine again. That's in partnership with AV Hospitals. So remember, the Pfizer vaccine is 16 and over. So we encourage everybody who has those 16-year-olds and 17-year-olds to get vaccinated. That is the time to do it. Again, get online, get that reservation. And get your kids vaccinated. I think, when you look at the comfort as it relates to your children visiting their grandparents, there's no better comfort than being able to do that and get vaccinated. So I know we've talked a lot about it, but it's important.
Yeah, my son, he's 17 and he just got it last week. So, I think it's a good thing. So thank you to all the staff, and thank you, Dr. Tron. Thank you, Dr. Stein, everybody.
Dr. Stock, I have some 5-hour energy for you, man, if you need it.
Well, I did just finish a shift. I've been working all day. Thank you, Daryl. I was reflecting on looking at what's going on in India right now, and there was people from our group that helped arrange an airlift of about 70 oxygen concentrators to New Delhi today, and through one of our doctors. Who works for us and works in India as well. And we're not safe for this thing until everyone's safe. Infectious diseases don't respect boundaries. And the fact that you have an explosion of disease in an area like India means that the variants can start taking hold, which eventually it may not be effective against the immunity that we have. And we also have to think the immunity has to be renewed with some type of booster at some point. So, we're celebrating in California. We're doing really well, and we have reasons to celebrate here. We have done an outstanding job. Been so proud to be part of this thing. And but we have to keep our heads in it, and it's not quite over yet. So. Yes.
You know, it's worth pointing out that India is south of the equator. People are inside. It's the rainy season. People are inside. When we return, when it gets cold again and we're back inside, if we haven't got a significant majority of the city vaccinated, we're going to be back to where we were. You know, it's really coming down to this. People are either part of this community or they're freeloaders, and freeloaders live off the toil of the rest of us. And I get it. There's lots of reasons not to take the vaccine. Being part of the community is not one of them. Doing your part for the community is not one of them. Being a responsible citizen is not one of them. You know, I don't want to see any more people die needlessly, and now it is needlessly. There is no reason for anyone to die any longer if the rest of us just do our part. You know, I can't tell you the level of frustration we feel in the city. I mean, look what we had to do to get the vaccine. Look at how loud we had to scream, the threats we had to make, the enemies we made to just get the vaccine. And now we got it and appointments are going unfilled. How is that possible? I mean, come on, folks, do your part. Go over there. You only got to get one if you get the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Just go over there and let them put it in your arm and let's be done with it. Thank you. You want to finish the president? Oh, I'm sorry, Larry.
I would just say if anybody who's listening on this or anybody who's listening who knows somebody who is still hesitant to get the vaccine, I wish you'd reach out to one of the deputy mayors to speak with us, and we could speak to you about your concerns about the vaccine. I would not want anybody in this town, unless you have an allergy to the vaccine itself, to not get vaccinated. I think, you know, it's good for you, it's good for your family, it's good for your community. That's all I can say, and we're happy to talk about it.
You know, and I think we owe it to the nurses. Maria, I'm going to say your name right. I'm taking a Spanish class every day on the internet. It's Maria Altamirano, right?
Altamirano, yes.
Altamirano. All right. Just so you know, I'm working on it. What you guys went through, I mean, it was hell. I mean, it's literally every day they went and watched person after person after person die alone. They couldn't even let their families be with them. And now we're asking you to just get your vaccine. Do it for the nurses. You owe it to them, to no one else.
It's mainly for themselves, for their own families, for the community, just like Dr. Stock stated, just like Dr. Trong has stated. You know, we've been through a lot, you know, codes after codes, but we're liking it now, the fact that we're seeing such a low census of COVID, and it should remain throughout the year, as long as people continue to get vaccinated and as we continue to have the collaborations with all of these organizations, with High Desert Medical Group, Kaiser, AB Hospital, you know, more can come. Let's just get everyone vaccinated when now everybody can. And our children, especially our teenagers, they can't wait to go back to school. You know, this is their time, and they're actually the ones. Their parents want them to get the shot. They're getting their shots. So let's continue. Let's continue these efforts. And thank you all. Thank you, Jason. You've done a wonderful job too with all of this, these collaborations that you've done within the city. So thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, Dr. Trong, you're back on.
Well, you want me to finish the slides or?
Yeah, somebody put a lot of work into those slides.
Okay, fine. I'll share. Okay, so something came up with a Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Apparently, on April 13th, the FDA and the CDC announced that there have been reports of cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. Basically, it's called the thrombosis thrombocytopenia syndrome. Apparently, there were 6 original cases out of the 6.8 million doses, but even now, more cases are coming forward, and occurs primarily between 18 and 59, median age of 37 years, basically reproductive years. And symptoms are within 1 to 2 weeks of the vaccination. So a little bit, just a few slides regarding this entity. Basically, when blood is transported from the heart to the brain, then CO2 and products of metabolism are absorbed by the veins and brought back to the heart, kind of like your closed circulatory system. So if you have a thrombosis, a clot in these veins, then it's called the cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. And when you obstruct the blood, because of the clot, the blood flows backward. It causes swelling in the affected areas. And you get headaches, you get high pressure, and it basically presents as a stroke. You can get blurred vision, loss of consciousness, fainting, seizures. Now, the rates of this CVST, this sinus thrombosis, is low, 5 in a million. So even the rate of 15 in 6.8 million, still a lot lower than this, but that's the baseline. And in children, it's about half of that. Now, before the vaccines came out, we did see this naturally. People had ear infections, sinus infections, infections in the mouth or the neck area had it, could develop the venous thrombosis. Patients who were on hormone therapy, birth control, and pregnancy also can develop these venous thrombosis. But now we're seeing it with the vaccine. So it caused a pause, made us think and weigh the risks. Yesterday, the New England Journal published the article regarding how it came about. We had seen this also in AstraZeneca, the vaccine that's used in England and most of Europe. And they studied the 22 patients who developed the same illness, thrombocytopenia thrombosis. And they found that it's the platelet factor 4 that caused the problem. And that basically they outlined how to treat it, but also reminded us to recognize that these occur in the AstraZeneca and the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. We're not seeing it in the mRNA vaccines. We're not seeing it with the Pfizer or the Moderna vaccine at all. So I think I can go forward, but right now the average daily about 3 million doses a day. And this is the LA County numbers Jason had spoken about. Basically about 48% of age 16 have been received the doses. And for over age 65, the most vulnerable, 74% have been received the first dose. And basically, there's no criteria. Anyone 16 and over can get the vaccine. And this is the latest updated on 4/23 in terms of mismatch. There's still mismatch, but it's improving some. If you recall in the previous slides, I have us here, dark blue. We used to be super light green, but now we're getting a little bit medium green. Hopefully we'll get more as the coastal cities, as time goes on. And so yeah, it was mentioned High Desert and Kaiser. I know Jason said 30,000. Last week I was on a conference call. We've given out over 35,000, at least with Kaiser alone, and about 1 in 3 are non-Kaiser members. And when we have events like on a Saturday, about 50% are non-Kaiser. So basically, we are pushing out the vaccine as much as we can. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any questions? Any public comment?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on ED1, please press *9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press *9 at this time. There are no speakers.
Thank you. I want to go ahead and renew the emergency procedures we're having, but I want to also recognize we need to start dialing these back. I want to look into the possibility of figuring out ways to encourage people to get the vaccination. We also should be looking at ways to reward those who had. We will have our council meeting live in person the next meeting, but no one will be allowed in without a pass. I mean, without their vaccination thing. Can I do that, Allison?
The restrictions on attendance need to make sure that we provide full access to those who cannot attend in person. So we'll be working closely with the city clerk's office to ensure compliance.
Okay. Easiest thing for people to do is just get vaccinated and come to the party. We're also going to start opening up city events, but the same thing's going to apply. We've got to get people vaccinated. I do not want to do this again. If I never have to go through this again, it'll be too soon. And I think everybody on this Zoom call would agree with that. It has not been the best year of any of our lives.
Mayor, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I thought you were finishing.
No, you can interrupt me.
I've tried to do that most of my career, not to interrupt you, but Anders is on the phone as well. Anders is on the call. Well, I'm sure he might have a couple things to update on the county as well and where they're going. So I know that they had some announcement going into yellow. So when you get a chance, just maybe call him. There he is.
Okay, Anders, how are you? I've missed you. We haven't had to have those meetings all the time.
I'm disappointed we haven't had them. I've missed them. But I'm glad that we haven't had them because things are going the right direction.
I'm so glad you came into our lives. Just so everybody knows, Anders was the guy who worked night and day to get that vaccine up here. And, I wasn't always as nice to him as I am now.
We have a great understanding now.
The Antelope Valley, Anders. Thank you.
Well, now we need to put them to use. I just wanted to reiterate what you said. The county sites, we are all open, no appointments needed. So we are lowering as many barriers as possible. And as we get more Johnson & Johnson, those will be there in the coming weeks as well as we're getting more supply of that. So whatever we can do, we're going to continue to partner with all of our cities to make sure that people know the vaccine's available and lower as many barriers as possible to make sure people get out there. And as Jason mentioned, we did. LA County qualified for the yellow tier today. We have to be in it for one more week. And then we're expecting that next Tuesday we will enter the yellow tier, which comes with just even fewer restrictions than there already are. There's currently no green tier, like green light go. So we're still waiting on that. But things are, as Dr. Trong highlighted, we're strongly going in the right direction. Little flare-ups didn't send us astray.
And we're going to have a contest too. Everyone between the ages of 16 and 18 that get vaccinated in the next 60 days are going to go into a bucket. And then we're going to have a drawing. And we'll have, how much should we give we'll have a first, second, and third prize. How much should we give the first prize winner? You got to use it as a scholarship though, because it's going to come from the Mayor's Scholarship Fund.
And it's a good idea.
Well, in that case, if it's your money, let's make it really expensive.
Yeah, let's do 100,000. Let's make it easy on them. Make it easy on them.
We joke, but the state of West Virginia just announced they're giving everybody under 35 $100 savings bond if they get the vaccine. So
everybody under 35 what?
Gets a $100 savings bond from the state of West Virginia that gets vaccinated. So we're not far away from these additional measures. The Krispy Kreme donuts don't seem to be doing it for everybody.
That isn't doing it. Okay, how about if we do this? We do 10,000, 5,000, and 1,000. Those will be the prizes. Anybody 16 to 18 that gets the vaccine in the next 60 days. And we're going to have to figure out a way. I guess they're going to have to enter their names by showing their card or something, because we got HIPAA problems in how we get their names. But
yeah, we can figure out a strategy. As part of the appointment process, we have their names, and we'll figure out how to do that while being HIPAA compliant.
Okay, so if you want your child to get a $10,000 scholarship, take them over there and get them vaccinated. And while you're there, you might get yourself vaccinated. What do you think about that?
I like
All
that.
right, is that the plan? Everybody agree with that?
I love that. I love it.
Okay, and Jason, would you have the staff work with everybody and make that happen?
Absolutely.
And then when we award the scholarships, we'll make a big deal we'll make them rock stars. How's that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. It's not going to be done in the quiet of night. They will put their pictures up on the boulevard. They'll be heroes because it's heroic for them to do this, right? Good. That's what we'll do. Thank you. And as we wind this down, I want to thank again the deputy mayors. But for you, you were on this. I mean, we were on this earlier than anybody, and we pushed it and pushed it and pushed it. And I think we got the best result we could hope for. And next time we'll be ready. Next time somebody doesn't wear their mask, we'll know exactly what needs to be done. All right. Thanks, guys. I'm glad you were here. You were a gift from God.
Amen to that.
Motion to approve ED1.
Is there a second?
I second that.
Let's vote.
City Council Member, Agency Director, Authority Member Doris.
Aye.
Molly.
Yes.
Mann.
Yes.
Vice Mayor, Vice Chairman Christ.
Yes.
Mayor Chairman Paris.
Yes, it passes unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
So where are we at? We on
consent calendar?
Consent calendar. Okay. Any items to be removed?
No, sir.
Bill needs to recuse himself from CC 13.
Yes.
Okay, Daryl, you gotta go dark and act like you're really not listening when we do this. Okay.
Oh, okay. Is it for the J project?
Yes.
Yeah.
Item CC 13, you need to recuse.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of CC 13?
No, let's approve CC 13.
CC 13 first.
I'll move that we approve CC 13.
Oh, that's right. Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
City Clerk, could you call the roll?
City Council Members Doris. Excuse me, I'm sorry. Molly.
Yes.
Mann.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ.
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes, passes unanimously. If somebody could go get.
With Councilmember Doris recusing himself.
What?
It passed unanimously with Councilmember Doris recusing himself.
And whoever went and got Pastor Doris, thank you.
Roger got me.
Public hearing item 1.
We need to do the balance of the consent calendar and take public comment on the consent calendar.
Oh, that's right. I forgot all about that. See what happens when I get excited. All right. Is there a motion on the consent? The rest.
Motion to approve the consent calendar pulling CC 13.
Second that. Yeah, second.
City Clerk, could you call the roll?
City Council Members Doris.
Wait a minute. We need public opinion.
We need public comment.
Oh, that's right. We do that. All right.
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on any item on the consent calendar, please press *9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press *9 at this time. There are no speakers.
Let's call the roll.
City Council Members Doris.
Aye.
Molly.
Yes.
Mann.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ.
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes, Passes unanimously. Moving now to public hearing item 1. The public hearing is now open. We'll hear from Jeff Hogan. Hi, Jeff.
Mayor. Hi, Mr. Mayor. We're going to have Chris Awning make the presentation for you. So he'll be coming on there.
You better be compelling, Jeff.
Good evening, Mayor Paris, Vice Mayor Christ, and council members. The applicant has requested that the city conduct a TEFRA hearing and adopt a resolution to approve the issuance of revenue bonds. The local agency in which the project is located is required to hold a TEFRA hearing and approve the bonds according to the state and federal tax law. The previous TEFRA hearing for this project occurred on January 28th, 2020. However, there were delays with finalizing the financing and is now beyond the 1-year window. The applicant wants to continue to pursue tax-exempt bond financing. Therefore, the city must hold another TEFRA hearing. The city does not bear any responsibility for the tax-exempt status of the bonds, and there is no fiscal impact to the city. Thank you. And a representative for this item is also available to answer any of your questions.
Any questions? Any public comment?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item PH1, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press star 9 at this time. There are no comments.
Motion to adopt resolution 21-18.
Can we close the public hearing first, please? Mayor Paris, you're muted.
Hey, I was closing the public hearing. It's the first time in 13 years I remembered to close the public hearing, and I'm muted. I can't get a break. Okay. Public hearing is now closed. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we adopt resolution number 21-18.
Wait a minute. Before we vote, should we vote on whether or not Chris was compelling? All right. Is there a second?
I second that.
City Clerk?
City Council members Doris?
Aye.
Molly?
Yes.
Mann?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ?
Yes.
Mayor Paris?
Yes, it passes unanimously. Okay, let's go to PH2. I have to recuse myself, as does Councilman Mann, because we have property in close proximity to the project. And so I will turn the meeting over to my ever competent Vice Mayor, Marvin Christ, and I will leave you.
Okay.
Hold on, now I got to figure out how to do that.
Thank you, Mayor Paris. We'll open the public hearing. Who's doing the presentation?
Vice Mayor, Larissa and Shannon will be making the most compelling presentation for you. Go for it, Larissa and Shannon.
Just one moment, please. We are getting the presentation set up. There we are. Is everybody able to see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful. Good evening.
Good evening.
The item before you is for a general plan amendment and zone change to create a master plan along with an environmental impact report. The Lancaster Health District Master Plan is in the central portion of the city of Lancaster, approximately 1 mile to the southwest of downtown. The plan area is generally bounded by Avenue J, Avenue J12, 20th Street West, and 12th Street West. The plan area encompasses approximately 272.4 acres and allows for the build out of the plan area over the next 20 years. Specifically, it allows for the replacement of the existing hospital with a new hospital and a plant facility, acute and subacute care facilities, continuum of care, office buildings, including medical and commercial, a 180-room hotel, and an associated conference center, along with a 1,100 space parking garage. The master plan does not approve any specific developments. As part of the project approvals, the general plan designation for the plan area would be changed to mixed use, and the zoning would be changed to mixed use health district. The proposed plan divides the plan area into 3 sub-districts and 3 zoning designations, as shown on your map, as the district core, the district general, or district edge. The district core zone is located in the central portion of the central district and places an emphasis on medical and office uses. This is the location of the new hospital and other acute and subacute care facilities, and could also include the hotel and conference center, among other uses. The area also allows for residential, commercial, and civic uses. The district general zone, as shown in blue, promotes an active mix of residential and retail uses. This zone surrounds the district core and allows for residential, non-medical office, civic, education, and retail uses. The district edge zone provides more of a buffer between the more intense development west of 15th Street West and the residential uses to the east of the plan area, and allows for residential uses and some neighborhoods serving commercial as well. As part of this project, the city will also be installing a comprehensive street network improvements throughout the plan and as part of a Metro grant. These roadway improvements, as shown in bold, within the plan area. The lighter streets already exist. These roadway improvements are referred to in the master plan as part of the backbone roadway network. Construction of these roadway improvements associated with the grant are scheduled to occur between March and November of 2022. I will turn it over to Shannon for the next slide.
Thank you, Larissa. As you may recall, one of our primary goals with the Medical Main Street effort is to lay the foundation for future development. So a huge part of the benefit to the work Larissa and her team have done is that when a developer is ready to create a new development here within this district, all of the groundwork, all of the CEQA, all of those elements are already taken care of. So that speeds the time that it takes to develop and speeds them to market, making the projects more viable and making it easier to attract those developers. So we're pleased to report that that is already beginning to take effect. The first new development that will occur within Medical Main Street will, of course, be the new hospital. This represents an approximately $600 million investment by Antelope Valley Healthcare District, and this is the award-winning design that they have proposed for that hospital. It is well down the path in terms of development review with the state, and they expect to be breaking ground in 2022 with completion in 2026 is the current projected schedule. Next, please. In addition to the hospital, there is a substantial amount of vacant land within this area that is designed for development. The city is currently working with the hospital as well as KHJR real estate advisors to serve as the master developer on these sites. And they're doing an intensive design process to determine what types of uses should go here, following which we would begin recruiting sub-developers to actually construct these. Next slide, please. This shows some examples of the types of development we expect to see. This environment will create a walkable downtown-like district within the Medical Main Street area that will encompass housing, retail, shopping, and any other use you could really see fit. So we're very excited about this development and look forward to beginning to get shovels in the ground. With that, I'd like to open it up for any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions?
Yes, I do. So what type of housing you were talking about that, we're planning to create?
Absolutely. Housing, we recognize, is a huge need for local employers as well as existing residents to continue our local growth. So we've included elements within that design that will allow for multifamily housing, market rate, and a wide variety of product stock that is not currently existing in the Antelope Valley. So we're looking forward to getting developers on board to construct those.
When are we thinking about starting this, breaking ground?
We will have the first developments will begin in 2022. The second development will, following the hospital itself, will likely be a behavioral health hospital that will be just adjacent to the hospital's existing property. And they do have a joint venture on board for that. And we're expecting towards the end of 2022 to have some of those other retail and supportive uses break ground as well.
That's great. Thank you for great work.
Thank you.
Any questions, Daryl?
No, not at all.
And for clarity's sake, I believe, Councilmember Molly, this is the project on which you've been selected pursuant to the rule of necessity to proceed with this matter, despite the fact that you do own property in proximity, and this is all consistent with the requirements of the Brown Act and the Fair Political Practices Act.
Thank you for making it clear.
Yeah.
Can you say that again quicker?
3 times. 3 times.
I don't know if I can do it 3 times, but I can do it faster.
No, I'm good. Can we get public comment?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item PH2, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press star 9 at this time. There are no speakers.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing. I need a motion.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution number 21-19 as comprised.
I second that.
Is the motion to also introduce ordinance 1082?
Yes, ordinance 1082. Sorry.
And does the seconder concur?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion for resolution 21-19 and introduce ordinance 1082. Can we roll call vote, please?
City Council members Doris?
Aye.
Molly?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ?
Yes. Can someone wake up Ken Man?
The motion
and
passes by a affirmative vote of 3 with Councilmember Mann and Mayor Parrish recusing.
They're probably taking a nap right now.
Okay.
That wasn't funny.
Ken is.
You know, there is such a thing as a hostile work environment for old people. And Ken has been complaining to me about it.
Oh, I must say, Rex, if they saw you lift that 80-pound dumbbell today, they would be impressed with you.
That was pretty impressive.
Oh, the community will see video of that. That's for sure.
What?
We got it on video.
Oh, good. All right, moving on.
PH3.
Wait a minute, I'm on page 8.
We're on PH3. It would be appropriate to open the public hearing.
PH3, okay. So let's open the public hearing on PH3. George Harris, our finance director, is going to be more compelling than the last guy, I hope.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor Chris, and City Council. I've been asked to be compelling, but also brief. So I will try to do them both. I have a couple slides here to kind of quickly summarize the action before you tonight. So before you tonight is a substantial amendment to the Community Development Block Grant Program year 2019-20, a substantial amendment to the Annual Action Plan for year 2019-20, and a substantial amendment to the current Annual Action Plan. On March 27th, Congress approved what we know as the CARES Act. As part of the CARES Act, certain allocations were made to cities through the Community Development Block Grant Program. The first allocation in the amount of $874,000 was already presented before you some time ago. And then later on, the second trough of money was allocated to the tune of $870,000. Before you tonight is the action plan, so of the 1920 plan to allocate for the uses recommended by staff for the use of the second tranche of money in the amount of $870,000. Also, before you tonight is the reallocation of funds from 1920 in the current year from a project that has been completed, the Community Center project, which on a previous action tonight under the consent calendar, we shifted from funding from HUD to funding from the general fund. so that we can actually make some for a variety of reasons. But we're making those funds now available through the community block grant for future park projects. For the COVID relief money, the second allocation, totaling the $870,000, 174,000 is allowed for planning administration. With the opening of the vaccination site, we have a limit of 30% that we can allocate towards emergency services. We, as staff, deem the opening of our own vaccination site to qualify under those emergency services. So $208,822 will be allocated for those purposes. Extending the Feed the Need program that was started with the first allocation of funding, adding another $100,000 with this allocation, and then $387,000 to add to the rental assistance program that was started with the first allocation of COVID money. And then the second piece is there were $600,000 allocated in 1920 towards the community center, and another 120,000 allocated in 2021 to the community center. Staff's recommendation is to shift the funding from the community center, as that is a completed project, to future park projects that can be identified here shortly after we work with the Parks Department to set the priority. But a total of $620,000 will be available for future park projects to ultimately satisfy some of the ADA requirements and to really focus on rehabbing some of the parks in the HUD eligible areas. This is the other 120. So with that, that's before you. The staff published the 5-day notice as required under HUD, as allowed under HUD during the COVID relief years. Starting next fiscal year's allocation, those rules are all off, which will require a 30-day notice. And the notice for the 21-22 plan has already been set and will be on the May 11th agenda. So I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions? You know, George, if you were a little more compelling, you would have compelled a question.
Or I was so compelling that there are no questions.
There's that way to look at it. I'll give you that. Yeah. Okay, so public hearing is now closed. Oh, wait a minute. Public comment. Any public comment?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item PH3, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press star 9 at this time.
Now, that's a first. I mean, here we got free money. We're giving that money away, aren't we, George? I mean, and no questions. Yes. Are we getting that money out into the community?
Absolutely.
Are we maxing out?
Yeah, well, right now, I'd like to actually take this opportunity to plug the rental assistance program. So we do have a program where folks can receive up to $3,000 for rental assistance. Some money was allocated in the first allocation, and that as you see, we're allocating more money to that program now. And so this is a huge opportunity for those residents who have suffered throughout the pandemic and need that rental assistance. There was a time that the county was offering much fruitful benefits, and so a lot of folks were drawn to their program. And now it's our time, and the county ran out of money, and so now we have money that is available for those folks to apply. So just a shameless plug, just to really encourage folks to apply, because we really do have to get that money out into the community.
So how much do we have for $3,000 grants?
We have a total of, this allocation is going to provide for an additional $387,000 with this allocation.
Are we able to use that for homeless single mothers at all?
rental program, the rental assistance program is designed to reimburse the landlord for missed rent, but it does take the applicant to make that application. So homeless folks may not be eligible if they do not have a landlord and they're not paying rent. This is specifically for rental assistance and rental support.
Okay, well, let's make certain we get this out to the community. You know, we may want to go directly to the various apartment complexes. Would it apply to trailer parks also?
It would.
You know, we got a lot of people hurting out there. Let's make sure we don't leave a dime on the table. All right?
Understood.
Good. Thank you, George. You're doing a great job. I mean, think about it. You go out there and you get bucket loads of money and you bring it home to us.
Hey,
what a great job.
Sometimes being the middleman has its advantages.
I'm sorry, I missed it. What?
I think sometimes just being the middleman has its advantages as well.
You know, you need a good middleman in this.
Hey.
No question about it. Thank you. Okay, you guys, you need help with the rent? Call us. We got help for you. All right, now public comment. Do we need that?
There were no public comments at this time.
Oh, so now we just need a motion and a vote, right?
We need to close the public hearing.
Oh, no, you guys messed me up. I was almost there. All right, close the public hearing.
There are public comments. I'm here.
Who are you?
My name is Denny.
Let's hear what you have to say.
Oh, thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you for hearing me. I've always usually had a place to live until my mother died. And then the county decided to take over my life and put me from program to program until I eventually ended up in prison. And I slowly but surely pulled myself up out of, hard times. I live in the desert in a camper. It's just I can't afford housing. And I just heard the comments on how you guys are going to help us afford some housing, and that's awesome. I'm almost in tears. This is great news. I'm a good member of the society. Like I don't do crime, and I keep my area clean. And it's just like it's just hard by myself. And that's really all I had to say. But thank you for everything.
Wait a minute, don't go anywhere. Hold on. Don't go anywhere. George, let's find her a home. One person. One person. Find her a home. All right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We'll get her information and work with Mayor Varden.
Call George, and George is going to help you get out of the desert.
Thank you.
I have a phone number, sir.
And I want to report on this in a week. I want to know that we one person, just one. Okay.
And can somebody also get her contact information to me so I can get her connected to services as well?
Okay, Heather, come on so she can see who you are.
It actually says I can't start video because the host is.
Okay.
Oh, here.
All right. Heather is the
Here I am.
deputy mayor. Give her a call at the city, and she'll walk you through this, and she'll connect you with George or whoever else whoever's got the checkbook. Okay.
Okay.
And we'll take care of this. Right, Heather?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Thanks. All right.
So much.
Good. We did something good tonight. Let's move on.
Right.
Okay.
Seeing as we somewhat reopened it, it would be appropriate to reclose the public hearing. Mayor Parris, you're muted again.
How many times I got to close that door, Allison? All right.
One more.
Closed. Public hearing's closed. Have we voted yet?
No, I'll make a motion that we approve PH 1, 2, and 3, plus add the rental assistance program that George talked about.
PH 3, 1, 2, and 3?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Okay, let's vote. City Clerk?
City Council members Doris,
Aye.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, George. Okay, moving on to PH4. Public hearing is now open. We'll hear a staff report from the city manager.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Council. Before you today is an ordinance to amend Chapter 5.56 and 17.43 of the Lancaster Municipal Code, specifically regarding commercial cannabis activities. As you know, we've been facing a number of different challenges with regard to cannabis, greatest of which is the proliferation of illegal grows and illegal delivery, and I would say illegal consumption, but consumption is not illegal. But nonetheless, the legalities of consumption have allowed for and encouraged the proliferation of illegal grows. This is predominantly located in the deserts, specifically San Bernardino, but we can see the impending proliferation and know that it's likely not to stop. We're not at a danger point yet, but it could be moving here soon, and we need to get ahead of it. Illegal sales are happening. Illegal grows are proliferating, and illegal consumption of untested and uncertified cannabis is putting our public at risk. I will add to that in the sense that as we talk about these being legal to consume, it is not illegal to consume illegal cannabis. So those illegal grows who are not testing, who are not verifying, and who are not certifying their product could be selling, toxic, could be selling, and without question, untested materials. That is a concern. And to add to this, there's a public policy conflict which limits the enforcement of some of these laws and regulations. When you look at possessing cannabis, it is not illegal to possess cannabis, even illegally grown cannabis, up to a certain amount, which hinders some enforcement as it relates to delivery services, which, as you know, you've seen billboards around the community advertising such services. And of course, I reiterate, consuming cannabis is legal in the state, and consuming illegal cannabis is legal in the state as well. On top of these policy and these challenges, or these policy conflicts and these challenges, we have heard earlier about the DA's lack of enforcement of many laws. Included in those are the cannabis laws, as well as the consumption of cannabis and the sale of cannabis. And I don't know that that's unique to LA County. I think it's a statewide effort to decriminalize cannabis, but nonetheless, it hinders our efforts as it relates to regulating this industry. As a result of these challenges and changes in the marketplace, it was effort and necessary for us to update our cannabis ordinance. And today that update is before you for approval. When updating any ordinance, I think it's important to identify how we do that as staff, so that you understand the process we go through. The policymaking process starts with an unbiased citywide effort. We're working with the departments to say, what are the challenges with our ordinance? How do we fix that? How do we update it? How do we make the changes necessary? Of course, with the community's public safety in mind, finances in mind, and many other factors that direct us as it relates to public policy. The current ordinance before you reflects that. Through that process, we identified a number of problems with our existing ordinance. It was inconsistent with current practices in the industry. As you know, we were one of the ordinance was approved about 4 years ago. The industry has changed since that period of time, especially with the influence of illegal grows and illegal cannabis. It does not reflect the current market conditions as it relates to cannabis. It leaves us vulnerable to outside influences, whether it be illegal suppliers, referendum, or other state policy changes. The ease of implementation of our current ordinance and the unintended consequences of bureaucratic processes increase cost of services by the city staff, and as a result of the way the ordinance is written. We cannot manage who is delivering the cannabis because we do not regulate them. So the delivery facilities that you see advertised on the billboards, we are unable to determine if they're legal, illegal, or in existence at all. We just know that it's happening, and we just don't know how or where it's happening. And our current ordinance does not have surcharges for the necessary and certain industry changes that have happened within the industry. Things of nurseries, as well as processing plants, things of that nature. We do not have a surcharge in the current ordinance. So as it relates to the current ordinance before you, to understand what it does. It is updated to match current practices and statewide policies. It sets distance requirements consistent with the state, but also protects the distance requirements for sensitive uses for all forms of cannabis industry. It protects us from referendum, state mandates, and other changes in law. And it sets surcharges that were not considered in original ordinances for nurseries, processing, and other services that are provided. It sets surcharges that are consistent with the ease and calculation and implementation from a city staff perspective, making it more efficient for us. And it continues to provide the necessary funding to combat the challenges we face for illegal activities with regard to the cannabis industry. I think it's important to note as well, as I close the presentation, what this ordinance does not do. The ordinance as recommended does not allow retail development and continues to maintain strict standards as it relates to cannabis locations and where it can operate and protect those sensitive uses. It continues and protects the local land use process. It does not change that. Any cannabis facility must still go through the planning process, the environmental process, and the CUP process. It does not expand or proliferate allowable zoned locations. The same rule applies as it relates to the existing ordinance. It does not circumvent the traditional planning processes, and it does not expand allowable types of cannabis. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have with regard to the ordinance. And of course, Allison and Jocelyn were instrumental in putting together the ordinance. So as it relates to more detailed functions of the ordinance, they'll be happy to answer any questions as well.
Any questions? I'd like to hear from the Sheriff's Department about what's going on with these illegal grows. It's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, that this is becoming well, let me just say it. You know, there are people that are in law enforcement that have asked me not to say the word cartel because they're afraid of the cartels. But the fact of the matter is, it appears like the cartels are coming into our valley, and they're bringing what you would expect them to bring, which is a totally different way of conducting business that has no rules and has no respect for human life even. That we have situations out in the desert where people have been brought up across the border based upon their promise to work in these things for a year. And we've essentially created a situation of indentured servitude. But I want to hear from the Sheriff's Department. Is that accurate? What do you know about this? How bad is it? And what do we do to stop it today?
Yeah, Mary, that is accurate. We've seen a huge proliferation of illegal marijuana grows on East Side County area, very remote areas, and it's disturbing from a number of different aspects. Not only do you have the illegal grows and the problems and violence that come with that, but you also have the water theft issue. We had the High Vista area, the northeast corner of the county area, the corporate area. We had a huge problem that continues, but it really sprang up in the late part of March. We've been dealing with these illicit water trucks. And when I say water truck, I don't mean like a big commercial water truck. I mean a pickup truck with a 100-gallon tank in the back, a dilapidated trailer with a water buffalo type container in the back. And they've just proliferated that area. It's 150 square miles of remote desert area with about 250 fire hydrants, 4 what they call key wells, where folks, actually legitimate customers, pay the water district a certain amount of money, and they have access to these key wells so that they can fill their tanks up for their homes and so forth. But it's such a huge remote area that our bad actors from these illicit grows are targeting those areas and stealing that water. And it got so bad towards the end of March that the pressure got so low, the reserves and tanks got so low, there was concern about maintaining the integrity of the water system. If the pressure gets low enough, not only do you have problems with fire hydrants, but you have the potential for bacteria and so forth to backflow into the system, which could put you into a boil water situation. Luckily, the water company, a water district, had safety measures in place to recognize that, got a hold of us, and they actually started funding a 24 hours of patrol specifically to that area while we came up with a plan on how to address it. Here at the station, we jumped on it right away and put together an ad hoc committee, if you will, of all the players involved. We had Public Works, we had Narco, the cops teams, Fish and Game, really fire department, anybody who had any say in it or any stake in it involved. Chuck Boswick from the 5th District was there and got on it immediately right away. And since then, it has continued. We've towed so far about 60 of those trucks this month. And we've got the water system under control of Public Works. They're working on hardening those targets. You just can't do it with enforcement. You got to harden those targets. And they're working on that. But the illicit grows create a whole host of problems. And we have Sergeant Picorni, who runs the marijuana eradication team out here in the Valley, who can really give you an overview of the problems that those brings. Sergeant Picorni?
Wait a minute, before you start, Captain, have you changed your policy on beards?
Not here at the station we have it. Sergeant Picorni has a different boss.
Sergeant.
First and foremost, thanks for having me. And this is my first Zoom meeting officially. So if I mess it up, I'm the newbie. I apologize. I'm standing in here in support of our department and our captain. And, I've been on the Sheriff's Department a long time. I've been into this North County now for, I would call it 2 seasons. The marijuana eradication team is a collateral duty of all the narcotics detectives up in AV. They're funded by the DEA. So outside of their normal station functions, they're over the almost past 2 decades, they've been responsible for these marijuana eradication operations. And back in the day, way before my time, when I was at another job, the problems were up in the hills. They were up in the mountains. They were, away from public view. They were, very isolated. And so, over the course of the last, I would say, half a decade, obviously because of laws have changed, and we're differentiating between the green market and the black market. We don't see any green market. We see all black. We see all illegal grows where we're at. And so last year was my first full season with Met up there in the Antelope Valley. And the detectives that run those operations, had identified, just over 150 illegal outdoor grows in, like the captain said, primarily East County, some on the west. Right now, as we sit tonight, wherever we're at, that area is over 300 illegal operations that are cultivating illegal cannabis. The LA County has only given 15 permitted commercial hemp licenses in the entire LA County. Only 14 of those are in the Antelope Valley. But I would assure you that, the over 300 that we're currently dealing with, they're not involved. And like the captain said, the strain on the water theft in the East County has, gotten, a lot of people involved, which is appreciated on our side, especially since we do it from a collateral status. But, since March, since Met has started, we've been able to serve 28 search warrants in that eastern northeastern part of LA County, where we've gotten 37,000 plants, 42 arrests, 7 firearms, and almost 3,000 pounds of finished product in that area. And right now, because of the water theft, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of, between county council, public works, sheriff's department. A lot of people are starting to put their heads together to come up with a plan to assist us in ultimately, when we say marijuana eradication, ultimately what we are being able to do now is not essentially remove the actual operation from what it is on that land. And a lot of it's, illegal squatting. The growers do not have any rights to that land. Just in the last 2 seasons that I've been there, and at first I joked about it, but I'm being more frank and more serious, for the people who care, is if these things aren't able to be eradicated, we're going to have compounds out there. We're going to have areas out there that, for these residents that live out there and for anybody else, law enforcement, regular patrol to deal with, they're going to be emboldened. And like the captain was saying, and what you were saying about, people are being brought over the border to work in these grows as essential slaves for a year so that they can, leave into this free country that we all enjoy. But, homicide has been out there. Our Special Enforcement Bureau has been out there. Our SWAT team dealing with, heinous crimes that have ultimately occurred. And that's just 2 seasons that I'm able to speak of. And that's from 150 illegal grows to now well over 300. When we're up in an aerial status or an aerial posture, if any of you executives ever want to come up with us, the Sheriff's Department, we can get you up there so you can actually see it for yourselves. Our neighboring county out there, I think is in a little bit more stress than we are. But if we aren't able to, eradicate these operations or eradicate these illegal grows, they'll continue to push themselves over that 265th, Street East area into our county and ultimately move themselves west. And I'm sure that a lot of the city council and the mayors, and also aware of, the far west county, we're dealing with a lot of indoor grows, with a lot of these custom homes and properties that are being bought up out in the Antelope Acres area. So our primary focus would be mainly is to deal with the complaints and to deal with the residents and to who's exactly or intimately being affected by it. Because with 300 plus, a normal complaint just gets put on to the back burner. But we try to deal with the ones that are as close to the residents as possible, and we continue to move from there.
Thank you.
Council, Mayor, I believe we need to open the public hearing.
I don't want to open the public hearing yet. I want to know if the council has any questions of this.
Mayor Pierce, I'd like to ask the captain. So, given the ordinance as it's proposed tonight, you thinking it's like a chess game, potentially, I guess, I don't know, legalizing it, or at least setting up to where we have a control methodology. You think long term that would help stamp back or draw back these illegal grows?
Yeah, I'm just looking at this, but to be honest, sir, whether you're growing 6 plants or you're growing 6 acres of plants, it's a misdemeanor crime. And you've kind of taken the risk out of the risk versus reward quotient. So honestly, I think without some legislation change that puts a little more teeth into the problem, I don't know how much effect this would have. I mean, if you think of the money that there is to be made on the black market, and the folks that they're bringing over as these indentured servants you're catching them. They're not really the problem. They're not all your hardcore bad actors. They're farmers. But like I said, the risk is just out of the risk versus reward quotient with marijuana, and it's with all the money that's there, it's going to take some pretty substantial changes. We'll take anything we can get to help fight it, but it is a huge problem that people really need to look at. I know the 5th District, they put a motion through and have a lot of folks looking at it and supporting us. But this is a big problem. I'd be lying if I didn't say I wasn't concerned. This is a big problem.
Thank you, Mayor.
Any other questions of the department? Okay, let's open the public hearing. Thank you, Captain. Thank you, Sergeant.
Absolutely.
I love the new look, by the way.
I knew you back in the day, but if I shaved my beard, I think you'd recognize me.
Okay.
It's been a while, sir.
All right.
Suddenly, I have a desire to watch Sons of Anarchy. I don't know why.
Okay, let's open the public hearing. Let's open the
Public comment?
public comment. Yeah, I'll get it right one of these days.
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item PH4, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press star 9 at this time. Caller with the last 4 digits 1331, please press star 6 and state your name.
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay. Thank you for having me, guys. My name is Ray Henson. I live and work in the Lancaster area. And I just want to say you guys are doing a great job, too. I see all the roads, the signs, the lights, everything. And that just goes to say with, approving to allow medical dispensaries out here, would definitely help with the infrastructure a little bit more. It could possibly help these people out here in the desert, get some kind of, support or assistance. It's a lot of things that it can do. I don't particularly partake myself, but the people that I know that do, they're going down the hill or up north or, the money's not coming into our neighborhoods. They're going to be doing it anyway. It's legal. We might as well go ahead and capitalize on it as a city. There's been a lot of advancements too, as far as medically, not just getting high or recreational use. And I think it would be a positive thing.
Thank you.
Caller with the last 4 digits 4518, please press star 6 and state your name.
Hello, my name is Chris Johnson. Good evening, Mayor Parris, Vice Mayor Chris, Council Members Mann, Molly, and Doris, and City Manager Jason Cottle. First, I wanted to join you in honoring our medical and law enforcement communities. I appreciate that so much. I also would be delighted to join in helping with the housing need that was expressed earlier. And I do appreciate the opportunity to oppose the adoption of Ordinance 1083, which I believe will lead to widespread commercial growing and distribution of commercial marijuana through retail dispensaries. I offer 5 quick reasons for my opposition. First, the process. This monumental decision is being made in the middle of a pandemic. In 2017, hundreds of people showed up in person to oppose cultivation of medical marijuana. That's not possible tonight, obviously. We should wait. I personally only found out about this ordinance last Friday and first read it yesterday. And as a community organizer, I believe I, along with others, could provide some valuable input and thoughts. Secondly, the prerogative. I think there's too much discretion left to the city manager and mayor in this ordinance. The city manager can unilaterally set the number of licenses, and the mayor can singularly direct the opening of dispensaries. And we know that someday some of those positions will change. And And I think it's important to have proper limits. Thirdly, the problem, marijuana cultivation and consumption impacts everyone. It smells and the wind blows. It will not only leave a literal stench all over our valley, but will also wreak havoc on many lives, especially young people. In my opinion, drug addiction is our greatest challenge in our city. With more accessibility will come increased consumption and further destruction, particularly on those most vulnerable. This could easily become the leading crop in the city and the brand with which we are all known, especially as was mentioned with the proliferation of illegal marijuana cultivation in the county portion of our valley. Fourthly, the penalties, they already exist. This ordinance is not necessary to prevent illegal grows in city limits. According to Ordinance 1021, the cultivation, transportation, and sale of medical marijuana, of non-medical marijuana is a misdemeanor punishable by a city fine. I do appreciate the efforts to extinguish illegal grows. We do indeed have indentured servants in our valley, and I know none of us are happy about that. And so we do need to set limits and try to eradicate that. The promise on February 14th, 2017, 4 of you made a promise that the city would not engage in commercial marijuana cultivation and that there would be no dispensaries. Thank you for your consideration.
Katie, you may unmute yourself.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I just would like to commend the city for considering this ordinance. In my experience, let me introduce myself. I'm with Zealand Law Firm. I'm an attorney for the cannabis and hemp industry. I've spoken to cities and counties around California since legalization, and I want to say that in regards to the proliferation, of illegal activity, we find that by licensing and regulating the operators, you have a second set of eyes, and that's the legal industry that is watching out for that illegal activity because they too are their competitors. And having a way to report illegal activity when the legal industry sees it and hears about it is a great way to support the law enforcement. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Caller with the last 4 digits 0715, please press *6 and state your name. We can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay, cool. Hey, good evening, Mayor and Council. This is Chairman Sean Cannon of the Social Equity Commission. First, I want to express my gratitude and support for the efforts of the City Council and Deputy Mayors in handling the COVID-19 related crises that have burdened our community. This, coupled with the Mayor's advocacy of equity in vaccine distribution, has put us closer to putting the pandemic behind us. I'm really grateful about that. My mom's a nurse, and my son is 7 months old, so the city is becoming safer and safer. But tonight I rise in support of resolution number 21-20 and ordinance number 1083. It is well known that in times of crisis, folks that weren't doing well before tend to do worse after the crisis has abated. And this is true for local issues such as lack of employment opportunities and hiring practices that disproportionately affect young people and our elderly population. And those with criminal records as well, trying to rehabilitate in our community. With this legislation, the council is opening up our city to $1 billion, that's billion with a B, dollar industry, one that will inevitably come with a pretty powerful lobby that will care little about the people that live here and be only motivated by dollar signs. So we should be wary of applicants who have no stake in our city other than monetary. When taking this vote, though, I would like the council to think about all the good this new source of revenue can do and the jobs that it can create. You know, I recently went back to work at Six Flags, along with so many other young people and retired people that live in Lancaster. This industry will bring jobs that more of us won't have to travel an hour or more to get to. When voting for this legislation, I want you to think about how cannabis is already in Lancaster. This step puts us on a path towards countering its negative effects with an overwhelming quantity of possible ways its industry will better our community. We must ensure, though, that folks who have been waiting on retail sales licenses while still providing medicinal services to our citizens who need it are given first shots at them. Please think about how this new source of revenue can go into education initiatives like after-school programs and reading programs, which are desperately needed now that students are returning to in-person learning. This is a tremendous opportunity for our city. Years from now, it will be evident whether or not cannabis coming to our community was done in an equitable way, as is evident in other cities. I believe that Lancaster will show them all how it's done. I look forward to what's in store and working with you all to ensure that it is done in an equitable way. Thank you so much.
There are no additional speakers.
Thank you.
Can I say something, Rex?
Sure, of course.
I have went back and forth on with this ordinance, and one of the things that I have always made my stance on, and I have said this publicly in my church and publicly just to anyone who's ever talked to me about it. I became deputy mayor. Matter of fact, I remember the night that I just about became deputy mayor because I was in there for my first meeting when you guys were voting on this. I wasn't a councilman yet. And I remember being there till almost 9 o'clock at night with this going down. I've always stated, and I don't mind making this public since this is a public meeting, that I am not for dispensaries. I'm not for dispensaries. I'm not for marijuana sales. At the same time, I do understand that there is an issue in this valley. I got a call from some of our high-ranking leaders just yesterday night. I heard the number 200, 300. I was actually told by a flyby that there's actually 3 times that when you put the 2 counties together and how close they border us. One of the things that I am struggling with, and I have to admit, is that I do, me being a pastor, I know where I stand with this. So this ordinance, the reason why I am considering this ordinance is because 70% of this valley voted Mayor Rex Parris in office. They voted confidence in you. They voted that you are a great leader in this city. We have a great city manager. And even so much so that one very special friend of mine, I know for that has sent me many letters. I've had many pastors send me emails and talk to me about this. I believe, Rex, you even have a medal of Defender of the Faith for the Valley. So with that being said, I believe, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Jason, I need you to unmute yourself. We are not saying that we are allowing dispensaries. We're not issuing licenses. We are not, but this does give basically the nuclear lunch codes if things get so out of hand that we have to move on certain issues for whatever reasons. But we are not today saying that we are opening up dispensaries or issuing licenses as of tomorrow when this passes. Am I correct?
The action on the agenda does not allow dispensaries.
Okay. All right.
Any other comments from the council? Going once, going twice.
Mayor, I'm really conflicted with the current ordinance, the way it's written. We just got finished months back able to pass a tax initiative. So I really feel that the city's in a pretty good place financially. And the only thing I could see for me to support this, I'd have to see a modification. Speaking to pastors, the sharing of what's taken place the last 3 to 4 years. I mean, I know you can get on the phone and, within an hour or so, I suspect I could probably have marijuana right here in my house, although I've never had it in my entire life. So I really feel frustrated. But the sharing of what's taken place over the last 3 to 4 years, and then the captain sharing, and then, of course, the sergeant, I would think that the only way I could support this is all the monies would have to go to help fight the drug use and essentially be put into drug rehab, and to bolster the sheriff's department to be able to get the support that they need in order to go fight this stuff. Because otherwise, to me, it's very difficult for me to be able to support it as the way it's written. I don't know what kind of monies would come out of this, but
I didn't hear you, Marvin.
Is that a motion, Ken?
No, not yet.
No, I don't know from a clarity standpoint of how it would need to be written or modified, but all I know is where I could set right with this, because right now it's frustrating to me.
Let me respond to what you're saying.
Okay.
I don't think there's anybody in this city that is more supportive of drug rehabilitation than I am. It is no secret that 30 years ago, I was a drug addict. 30 years ago, I was in drug rehab. That's not a secret. It's not something I'm proud of, but it is an experience that I have that has opened me up to the idea that, one, there is such a thing as rehabilitation. There are programs that work, and especially 30 years later, there are incredible progress being made in regards to treating drug addiction. But you have to treat it, and you have to be willing to be innovative in how you do it. You have to be willing to say, what are your measurements? What is your success rate? And not fund the ones that have a low success rate and fund the ones that have a great success rate. There is nothing I would rather do as mayor than see that happen. Nothing. I think that it is one of the greatest things we could accomplish. And I think it would elevate the entire community if we did so. My concern about what's happening now is we are putting so many people at risk by being afraid to take this by the horns and wrestle this bull to the ground. But I can tell you what's going to happen if we don't. There is no doubt in my mind that before our terms are up, we're going to get a phone call saying silver or lead. The people that are opposed to this are not going to ever get that phone call. We will get it. But make no mistake, they are here in our valley. They are killing people in our valley. There was a shootout across the street from one of the major churches in our community while the children were coming to school. While they were coming to school, that shootout occurred. It is inconceivable to me that in our valley we have slaves, for heaven's sakes. There is no justification for this. And you heard the sergeant, the problem is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Now let's talk about what happens in those grow houses or those huts they have that are, when you go out in the desert and you see those white huts, they're not growing strawberries. When you look what goes on in there, in order for them to be profitable, they have to put enormous amounts of pesticides into it, because you don't have the luxury of all of the other things that go with a legal grow house, where they really protect the crop and it's enclosed and the humidity's controlled, the temperature's controlled. You don't have the luxury of that. So as a result, the pesticides that are being sprayed on this stuff, and then it's being put out into the illegal distribution. Now, what is that illegal distribution? Any one of us could pick up the phone if we bothered to get the number off the billboard in our city. If we took that number down and called it, it would be at your door in 30 minutes. The problem is what gets to your door hasn't been regulated at all. If the distribution is regulated, if there's a vertical distribution to this stuff, you make them account for, was this product inspected by the agricultural department? where the pesticide regulations enforced, where all of the things that then ensure the safety for the people who decide to use this now, have they been taken care of? The water they use to grow it, there's a lot of those wells out there that you can't use because of the arsenic. This particular product, from what I understand, absorbs that arsenic at a much higher degree than most other crops. And then they suck it into their lungs. Now, these illegal places that are selling this, they don't check IDs. You don't have to show your license. They'll sell it to a 10-year-old if the 10-year-old has the money. Yeah, I totally get how easy it would be to say not in our city and just close our eyes to the fact that it's happening all around us. Well, the din is so loud now, we cannot close our eyes. It is here. Do we really want the cartels in the Antelope Valley? I know you guys. I know the level of your courage. I know that that is not who you are. And I don't see this as any different than what faced us with the pandemic. Anything that threatens the well-being of our families, we will do whatever is necessary. And that means if we have to put money into law enforcement at a rate that we've never envisioned, that's what it means. But those huts will not go up in our city. I wish we had more influence in the county, because I don't understand why bulldozers haven't just torn every one of them down. I think it's the same thing that we deal with here: out of sight, out of mind. We're out of sight of the county. It's going to take a lot of money to drive these people out of our valley. But that is the goal. Whatever it takes. The cartels will never, ever get a foothold in our city. I will do whatever is necessary to prevent that from happening. But I can't do it if we can't regulate it. You can't do it if we can't regulate it. What I would like to do is, before I ever approve any type of distribution unit, is let's have a plan in place where how the money gets into drug rehabilitation. I'm not saying it should go into drug rehabilitation. I think we have to consider that. I think the other part has to go into the law enforcement angle of this, because we are going to have to spend a lot more money on law enforcement. And yeah, I guess we could take it from other sources, and all of the dreams and plans we had for this city will evaporate. I mean, we've managed this money extremely well. And whoever's calling me, I wish they wouldn't. Hold on. When you put your hearing aids onto your phone, it has a downside to it. I can assure you, Ken, that we will have a plan in place that we vote on as to how we distribute this money. But what I don't think we should do is do that tonight without the deliberation that it's going to take. I want a plan from the sheriff's department. What do you need to drive these people out of our city? What exactly do you need? And then let's figure out a way to get it to them. What I don't want to do is sacrifice all of the expansion plans we had. You all know what's on the table of how we're going to improve this city. Everybody else doesn't know yet because we haven't announced it. But I don't want to throw that away, and I don't think you do either. I think that we're finally in a place where this place will blossom in spite of all the challenges we've had with COVID. Yeah, we're going to make some people unhappy. We're going to make some people unhappy that I love. I don't know how else to do it. I know what I can't do is have a situation where it's totally unregulated. The sheriff's department can't enforce it. The DA won't enforce it, so it really doesn't matter what the sheriff does. And it's anarchy. And it's anarchy with a very dangerous substance that is being made more dangerous by how they grow and produce it. And then on top of that, let's really understand what this means to the water. It doesn't mean we just wait for the next storm after the next. I mean, we're in a drought right now, so it's real serious. It doesn't mean we just wait for the water to come back, and it eventually will. It'll eventually storm and rain. If we allow this to continue, the ground subsides. Subsidence, once it subsides, you can never fill that aquifer again. This is threatening our entire valley, and we have to take aggressive, merciless responses to protect it. And we can't do that under the present regulatory scheme. That's really what it comes down to. I appreciate the trust that you're putting in me. It cannot be open to public debate every time we want to do something. I've made it pretty clear what I'm going to do. I'm going to find out how we combat this the most efficient way. And that's how we will do it. But we will drive these people out of this city. Mark my words. We do not tolerate this type of criminal activity in our city, and we will do whatever is necessary to stop it. I would like a motion. I'd like it approved. And then I think we put together a group to figure out how to best spend that money to accomplish two things. Provide the law enforcement what they need, and then let's have a real substantive drug treatment program in this city that has a little better success than 13%, because that's what the current programs have, 13%. You know, that's just not adequate. It's just not going to do the job, especially when we know that there are some great programs out there that are simply underfunded and not allowed to proliferate because of the lobbies of the 12-step programs.
So, Mayor, if I may say then, and not that I don't trust you, because there's been a question about the trust factor. But with that said, based on those two items that you addressed, coming up with a drug rehabilitation plan, as well as monies to the Sheriff's Department for policing, how come we can't bake that in as item number 4 and
I'm perfectly
modify it?
Perfectly fine with that if it's the two things.
Well,
it can't be the one thing.
Well, here's the problem with that. I want the conversation because if this is something that may come down the road, and I'm hoping that it's not, but if this is something that our mayor, from what we may or may not vote on, and this is a perfect example why I'm not for defund the police. I'm for all kind of reform. I'm all for all kind of, things that we need to do for accountability with our sheriffs. But we see right now, we need them massively. I believe it was even stated at one point that we may all have to have a sheriff at our house. I have 4 children in college. That's how dedicated we are to making sure this does not affect our city. At the same time, and I grew up in Inglewood, I've never been scared of a fight. But at the same time, Ken, I'm with you on this. I don't want to leave out the community as far as also. I think that my community center, I just heard with the CBDG money, there's a lot of things that we can do. We are cash rich right now. The Lord has blessed the city, but I want to make sure that it's just not all dedicated to the sheriffs either. We want to give them everything that they need in this fight, but I think that there will be enough if, and I'm hoping it's not an if, God knows I am, if Rex decides this has to happen as one of the steps, I want to make sure the community side of this also, with community programs, reading programs, that's my side. I come from probation department. I want to make sure that we're pushing scholarships, we're doing all kinds of stuff. Now, we're not doing this for money. And I'm correct, Jason, we don't technically need the money from this. This is not a money issue. This is a public safety issue that we're talking about, correct?
I guess leaning towards Rex's comments, do we need the money? No, but if there's an expenditure increase, then it decreases somewhere else. as it relates to the available pool. Does that matter? I don't know if that makes sense or not. Okay.
So if I could jump back in here, I'm going to ask Allison, you heard the mayor, he's spoke it probably a little more elegantly, but you know my thoughts.
Yes.
And item modifying the recommendation and adding number 4 to it.
Actually, Councilmember Mann, I was thinking we might amend recommendation number 3 by adding at the end of item 3 to the clause that says, and until the city manager is directed to do so by the mayor, and a plan to spend such funds to fight drug abuse and provide support to law enforcement has been approved by the city council.
No.
Okay.
No, that's not what we're doing.
Oh, okay. I had understood that to be what was requested.
Fine, earmarking the funds. We can earmark the funds, but I'm not going to have this debate every single time. If you want to amend it to earmark the funds for law enforcement and community centers and community centers, I don't know what that means.
I thought it was.
How about youth programs? Daryl, what do you think?
Yeah, community, that's what I meant, community
programs right. And drug rehabilitation programs. That the funds shall be earmarked for those 3 things. I work with it. I'm good with that. But
okay, so then I'll make that motion with those modifications then.
Okay.
So maybe you want to read that back.
Sure. So I would say that it would be a further direction. So a direction to the city manager at the end of item 3 that all funds from such retail sales, if approved, would be used for community programming, drug rehabilitation programming, and or support of law enforcement.
So that's my motion then.
I'll second that.
Second.
I'll second it.
Let's vote.
City Council members Doris,
Aye.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes. Passes unanimously. Thank you.
We're on council agenda 1.
What?
CA1.
CA1. We're considering the nomination and appointment of Council Member Daryl Doris to the Southern California Association of Governments, SCAG.
Me?
Come up with another better acronym than that.
Southern California Association of Governments. I had to look it up to see what does that mean. Marvin thought of that name, Rex. I just want to let you know that.
Why don't you just call it SCAB? All right. So I made the nomination. Is there a second to it?
I'll second that motion.
Let's hear public comment, if there is any.
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item CA1, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press star 9 at this time.
Hearing none, let's call the vote.
Do I vote for myself or I stay out?
You can vote.
Well, I don't know. I would imagine it would depend on whether or not you think you're qualified.
I don't know if he's got confidence in himself. Come on, Daryl.
Hey, I'm just trying to
let him vote first.
City Council members Doris?
Emphatically, yes.
Molly?
I'm only saying yes because Daryl said yes. Yes.
Mann?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ?
Hesitantly, yes.
Oh, wow.
Mayor Paris?
I gotta tell you, you took all the confidence out of me, Daryl. Yes. Passes unanimously.
CA2.
Now I want to, let's do the appointment of Urban Carrillo to the Lancaster Agricultural Design Commission. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
And is there any public comment?
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on item CA2, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. Please press star 9.
Seeing none, call the vote.
City Council members Doris,
Aye.
Molly,
Yes.
Mann,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Christ,
Yes.
Mayor Paris.
Yes, and could we take a 5-minute break now before I swear Mr. Carrillo in?
Passes unanimously.
Oh, that's right, passes unanimously. Now can we take a 5-minute break? Thank you.
So back at 8.
We're back.
Rick, just real quick, the Irving is not in attendance, so you don't need to swear him in today. We'll make sure he's at the next meeting.
Well, maybe we should reconsider this appointment.
He's a great candidate. We're regretful to inform him that he was getting sworn in today.
Oh, it's your fault.
It's my fault, sir.
Probably from that golf whooping I gave him. He's not the same since then.
Jason, have I told you how concerned I am that you have such a low handicap? I mean, how do you get a low golf handicap without playing golf a lot?
You start out as a great athlete.
Oh. See what you did wrong, Marvin? You got a bad start.
No, he just been smoking a lot of product.
Hey, let's not start that. All right. Council reports. California Choice Energy Authority. Any reports? No action required. Lancaster Housing, no action required. Lancaster Financing, no action required. Why do we even have these authorities if they never do anything?
Do you want us to give the council reports?
Oh, I kind of skipped over that, didn't I?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay. Yes.
We did meet, we had a lot of meetings this month. We had NCTC, which is the North County Transportation Commission, which is the JPA between the city of Palmdale, Lancaster, Santa Clarita, and the county. And we were giving several updates on things that they're doing transportation-wise. Certain things that they're doing is they're doing a miles traveled or a congestion. They're looking at doing that on different roads, which would basically make the 14 a toll road. So we're fighting against that. They're also doing another initiative. It's called FFI, which is Free Fare Initiative, which means that it's free fares for everyone in Southern California. Metro is trying to do that. They don't know how to fund it, but they want to give everyone free fares. We do free fares a lot at ABTA, but we have grants and we pay for every one of them. So we're the only bus agency to actually allow our seniors, our veterans, our handicap, and our college students to ride the buses for free, and we're still profitable. So,
Marvin, I'm curious about that. Has there been an analysis done? If we did have free fares for the buses, that's different than the free fares for the trains, because we all know what happens with that. And I would, if I have to close the station again, that's what we'll talk about. You guys supported me last time. I'm sure you'll support me this time. I would hate to see free fares on the train, because it just is a way for LA to clear out their homeless problem.
Which is the problem, Rex, because we have a TAP system. The TAP system interlinks with all the different connections. So you can actually pay for fares with the TAP system and either ride the commuter bus or ride the trains. You can ride different places in LA. So it would create a deficit of about $4 million per year at ABTA, with no understanding where we're going to get the money. What that does is it makes us unilaterally reduce our service. So we have to make it up somewhere. So we have to reduce our service. So we do allow through grants the people that I talked about. So I don't think it's a real good idea.
Okay, I just wondered, curious.
We did meet with Kevin McCarthy. I met with the mayor and Kevin McCarthy. We talked about different grant ideas. Did meet with Mike Garcia, talked about the transportation issues, and talked about everything. He did tell me that he did go to a senior center in the Valley and he played ping pong with an individual, and Mike Garcia was unbeaten until he met this individual, and that put a whooping on the congressman pretty bad. So he wants a rematch. Me and Raj toured the facility at Sylmar for the Carpenters Union. So we went down and toured the facility down there, and we looked at having it down there as opposed to having it here at the college, and looked at, because when we did go to the pipe fitters, and that we were able to move some of those union jobs, not union jobs, but the training up here, if you remember. So that's what we're looking to do. We did a food drive at ABTA. One of the deputy mayors, Larry Stock, is a great soccer player, and he proved it at the food giveaway because he was playing soccer between the giveaway, and he's extremely good. But it's nice to be able to see that the doctors were also helping giving the food giveaways on a Saturday. Did a TDA Article 8 hearing, and that is the unmet transportation needs in the valley, if there are any, what their needs, and what those excess funds will be used for. So we looked at that there were no unmet transportation needs, and then we can use some of that money for paving roads and everything like that. And there was we did dedicate the wellness center at ABTA today, which I was very proud of. We've all worked hard, and it's a...
Oh, wait a minute, what was the name of that wellness center?
And that's the end of my presentation.
Look, Daryl, you were there. What was the name of that center? You were there, right?
Marvin Chris Man Hunk Wellness Center.
I got to tell you, Marvin, you told me, we're just going to exercise in the garage. That wellness center is every bit as good as an Equinox. I mean,
it really is.
It was fabulous.
It'll give any large corporation up here a run for their money. Seriously, it is. How many people?
Great.
Like 50 people can be in there. 100 people? How many? Once COVID is over.
I think it's 120 people could be in there. It's a good way that ABTA used some of their extra funds to give back to their drivers to make them. It was actually the mayor's idea to, we talked about it, and he said, well, buy them a gym membership. And so that led to, it's actually cheaper and more long lasting if we have it right on the property and let them go to the gym there. So a lot of people are taking that up.
Now, the facility was impressive, but I do want to point out that your performance on the machines today was not impressive.
I did have the mayor join us there, and he was showing his ability with the barbells, and our former deputy mayor, current councilman, jumped in there and hurt himself.
I was showing off. I admit it. I was showing off. It felt good. I enjoyed it. Wait a minute. How much older am I than you? All right, let's move on.
It was a busy month. There was a lot of meetings, but a lot of things are going on. We need to watch the vehicle miles traveled that everyone's trying to put on. That's the new buzzword in transportation, vehicle miles traveled, and they use it for mitigation purposes, and they do it for toll roads. They're going to use it for everything, and we're at the losing end of every one of those. So it's how Metro maintains the money in the core of Southern California rather than get it to where it's needed the most.
I wish that weren't true, but it clearly is. Thank you, Martin. And you guys, I want to thank you. You're a great council. I don't know how to articulate it. It's been a wonderful last few years. Thank you. You guys are doing your jobs in ways that you know nobody signed up for. You don't say no to anything. Right? Anyway, city manager, do you have anything to say for yourself other than you're a great golfer?
No, I appreciate the compliments, but I always have work to do, always improvement. Just a couple updates. First and foremost, I talked about it a little bit. I think that I was underestimated the numbers. We had 45,000 go through the vaccination site, so that's good news. And again, we're doing Thursday and Friday for Pfizer vaccinations. With your authority, we'll include the 16 to 17-year-olds that already had their vaccine as well. We don't want to exclude those folks that are our leaders. So we'll include those as well. And then, of course, Thursday and Friday is the opportunity to get that $10,000. So come on out and do that. Go to cityoflancasterca.org, vaccine more info to register. And again, a lot of these are walk-ups, but the Pfizer vaccine seems to be a little more in demand. So you might want to get in early and get that reservation in there. And that is with the partnership with the AV Hospital. So that's great news. Many of you have driven Avenue J. It's a continued effort with our paving and infrastructure improvements. Avenue J is the first phase of the Avenue J interchange. I know Ken has been harping on me this regularly about roads, and all of you have, but we're going to be, what do they say? You got to break a lot of eggs to make an omelet, and we'll tell you we'll be breaking a lot of eggs. And just a big shout out to our capital team who's out there paving streets. We've got a number of different paving jobs coming up for the paving season. And of course, Avenue J is going to be impacted for a number of days and weeks. So pay attention when you're driving out there. And we also awarded.
Jason, I hate to interrupt you, but can you go back and can you tell everybody just how slow it is to get that money? And we got that money in actually 2012 to do those interchanges. That's correct.
It's been a long process. The council worked hard, specifically Marvin worked hard to get, I think it was $96 million. He remembers that probably better than I do, to do a number of different interchanges. So we've got Avenue M, J, K, L, I think G is included in that. So a lot of those interchanges will be done, and they're going to be coming in phases. So it'll be alternate phases. We don't do two interchanges at the same time. So they'll be built back to back. But over the next couple of years, all of our interchanges will be updated, remodeled, increased capacity. Included in those funds is a mile on each side of the road, each side of the interchange. So that's the improvements that you see happening on Avenue J now, is the extension of that. So you do the work beyond the interchange, but also then come and do the work in the interchange. So that's all part of the same project and the same funds that became available 8 years ago, almost 10 years ago now. So it is a long process. Not a long process. I mean, as we do environmental work, we do design work. We've got Caltrans approvals. These are our Caltrans projects is managed by the city. So our capital team is the one managing those interchanges, and want to shout out to them about the work that they're doing. They're doing a phenomenal amount of work, and they're doing it well, but they're doing a lot of it, which is really good to see. So you'll see a lot of that coming through. They were also awarded 6 Caltrans highway safety projects with program grants of an additional $6 million. So you see a lot of that work going out. That's in addition to all the funds that have already been available through the council. And it's, we see the benefits of the road work that was done last year, and you're going to continue to see the benefits of the priorities that we're placing on our road system. It is they refer to it as our greatest asset, but the reality is it's our greatest liability, and we need to maintain it so it's not a liability, that it does actually become an asset. Earth Day cleanup was last Saturday. We got a quick video that Katie will play real quick. Looked like an homage to our lumberjack and assistant city manager, but nonetheless, we had a great team out there, and they cleaned.
Threw Lisa away in the dumpster.
he got out of the dumpster. He's here at City Hall with me, so he came out alive. But great shout out to all the people who participated. Obviously, with COVID making our programs much different, but the participation was great, and you can see the need out there with some of those photos of the trash and stuff that's accumulating. Obviously, that's a high priority of us and for us, and we'll be putting a lot of resources this next year towards that. So that's good news. And of course, the C&B Scene program will be starting, or clinic will be May 1st. Raj participated last year. I'm sure he's participating again this year. And that's to kick off a month-long scavenger hunt that encourages safe transportation for students and bikers and those types of things. So we encourage everybody when they're out on our roads to see and be seen, pay attention so that we can lower our accident rates as well as any of our pedestrian fatalities and things that we face as well. So that's the only thing I have to report. And thank you, guys.
Thank you. Okay. City Clerk.
At this time, anyone wishing to comment on non-agendized items, please press star 9. I will announce the last 4 digits of your call-in number when it is your turn to speak. Please state your name and eliminate any background noise. Individual speakers are limited to 3 minutes each and will be remuted after the allotted time. State law prohibits the commission from council from taking action on items not listed on the agenda. Please press star 9 at this time. Caller with the last 4 digits, 1995, please press star 6 and state your name.
Eugene Hernandez, Green Party, voter and resident Lancaster. First of all, I would like to thank the mayor. I was pleasantly surprised when I got my second COVID shot to get that $20 card to eat. I thought that was a very classic move. Second of all, following the footsteps of Long Beach and Los Angeles, perhaps with the surplus the city has, could give outright grants to house and unhoused families instead of just the rental assistance. I think that would be a better way to go to both help those who are housed and unhoused. Thirdly, I know that the city won't terminate its contract with the sheriff's department, but there has to be justice. The killing of the black man here in Lancaster has gone unresolved. I think that the sheriff's department is going to be following the footsteps of the Louisville and the Minnesota police departments to be investigated for its many crimes of brutality. I think it's just a matter of time in which these incidents of brutality and killing are going to be investigated, and there's going to be a stop to Alex Villanueva's police department's brutality and incompetence. Thank you very much.
Caller with the last 4 digits, 1134. Sorry.
I want to comment on that. Putting the sheriff's department in this bucket, that includes departments that are not nearly as qualified is I don't think it's appropriate. I also don't think it's appropriate to compare what happened that night with what we've seen elsewhere in the country. The circumstances of that, I think that we all could have done better in training people what to expect. When you call 911 and the person who calls goes silent, the department has absolutely no choice but to come into your home. It would be absolute negligence for them not to come in. And, I could see how that thing got out of control. And if it was me and I said, you can't come in my house, and they came in anyway, especially if I was drinking, I'd be fighting, especially back then when I used to drink. Sometimes things happen that are just regrettable. There is no facts that I'm aware of that indicated that it was anything other than what was reported, that there was a scuffle. One of the deputies saw him put his hand on the gun, on the other deputy's gun, and he fired. Now, I'm not going to second guess that. I think that where the error is, it's our error. We have to educate people. We have to educate them as to what happens when these events occur. And I think had we done that, perhaps this wouldn't have got to that point. I also want to point out that, with the Social Equity Commission and with the Sheriff's Department, we are the first city to put body cameras on all of our officers. That is quite an accomplishment. If we want to talk about creating a situation where these things are less likely to happen, that is the step in the right direction, because everybody should know now, both the citizen and the police officer, there are all kinds of eyes on what is happening out in the field. That was a huge step the Sheriff's Department took. And I'm really proud of the fact that it happened in Lancaster. We are also going to start a training program for the citizens so that there's an understanding of what do you do when these different things occur. I think both the sheriff and the citizen have responsibilities when there's an exchange with law enforcement. And I think that if we had that training, it would be a lot better for everyone. One of the things we're looking at is having the trailer that the sheriffs use to train in shooting available to younger people so that they can see see it through the eyes of the deputy. That doesn't mean we don't have deputies that step out of line. That happens. But I also think we have a captain that is the most draconian captain out there when it comes to that. He holds those guys accountable far more than most. And so we're going to be making a lot of changes in how we approach these things. One of the things we're looking at is maybe having an actual advocate for the citizens, that his job is just to advocate for them when various things happen and make sure that all the boxes are checked. That's one of the things we're looking at. But there is absolutely no intention of this council to replace the Sheriff's Department. And everybody would be far better served figuring out ways to improve how we do things in the city. But we are going to do them with the Sheriff's Department. So that's my speech for the night on that. I'll try not to make it for another 6 months. Okay? Go ahead. Who's the next caller?
Caller with the last 4 digits, 1134. Please press *6 and state your name.
Start talking. What do I say? I live in the desert. I'm homeless, and the sheriff's office told me where I could stay, where nobody could mess with me, and past city limits. And they're still trying to get me to move out farther. They moved me 7 times in 3 months. And I'm trying to figure out what this guy, is. I mean, he's been pretty just negligent on my age and my wife. And she was 75. She got so tired of moving, she had a heart attack and died. And it took them an hour and a half to get to us. So I'm just trying to figure out why this guy is even mayor, let alone anything else. Yeah.
Heather?
Yes.
This is Dawn. Can we get his name and number and I can work with you on that?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm sorry, your name, sir, it was Gary? Is that correct? Are you still there?
Did we lose him?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's get with
Heather,
yes.
Heather, you work for the city.
Okay.
Yeah, this is county.
If you would call the city and ask for Heather Varden, she'll help you. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry for your loss. I can only imagine what that was like. Okay, who's next?
Caller with the last four digits 3157. Please press *6 and state your name.
Hello, my name is Kathy, and I lived in the desert. It's hard out here because it's just a place where you don't know what's going to happen. It's dark, it's cold, and it's far away from food and everything else. But there's been some really nice groups that have come out here and fed us. And but I just got my housing. Now there's so many others out here that haven't even gotten their housing, and I know that Oasis did a wonderful job, housing a lot of us. And so I'm just here, and I'm speaking for everybody out here. I mean, they're just wonderful people. We just need more resources and stuff, and but I don't even know what else to say. But we're people too. So that's all I gotta say.
Thank you. I can tell you we are bringing in resources. Our first priority is going to be single mothers, and our next priority will be women. And then we'll slowly chip away at the problem. But we will be having a substantial number of housing units opening up in the next year. I know how difficult this is. It's a balancing test for all of us. And words are certainly not enough to account for any of it. I wish there were more resources available. Okay, who's next?
There are no additional speakers at this time.
Thank you. Okay. Before we go into closed session, is there anything the council would like to add? Okay, thank you. Let me find the litany here for closed sessions.
Would you like me to make the statement, Mr. Mayor?
Well, I got it. The City Council will now move to closed session.
The City Council will go into closed session on agenda items, closed session 1 through 23, as listed on the agenda.
Oh, I was afraid I was going to have to read every one of them. I was in shock. Okay, let's go into closed session.
Madam City Clerk, please send us into our breakout room.
Okay, we're back. Allison, were you going to say something?
Yes, in closed session, the council took up agenda item number 2, 3 potential cases, gave direction to staff and legal counsel, no reportable action.
Aren't we going to tell them what you did? Oh, okay.
No.
All right, we're back on. Let me go find my script.
Did you find it?
Yeah, but somebody had a question for me, I thought.
You wanted to talk about the people that already vaccinated, the 16 to 19-year-olds that have already got vaccinated?
Yeah, so do we include them in the pool for the prize money?
Yes, we can. Under your direction, we'll include the ones who have already been vaccinated, the 16 and 17-year-olds, into the pool.
Okay, let's make a big deal of this. Let's get these kids vaccinated. All right?
Yep.
All right. All right, meeting city attorney. You've done your announcement. We're all done, right?
Yep.
Well, now it's time to say goodbye. Remember that song? Remember Disney? Never mind. I used to sing it to the kids every night, you know. All right, the next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, May 11th, 2021 at 5 p.m., and it will be live in person. We are getting back to where we should be. It'll never be back to normal, but maybe it's a new normal that'll be better. Thank you for coming. I will see you then. Great job, guys.
Thank you.
Kathy McLaren stayed with us till the end. Hi, Kathy.